Hey, cheers.
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 Prost.
Cheers.
Kampai.
Cheers.
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 Little brown dog.
Spirits.
.com.
Your very good health. Ball bags.
Okay, so if anyone notices the total fuck up at the start, because I'm going live tonight without Mike, and last week's video is still playing, so so Neil has nothing to do with Little Brown Dog, but I hope you enjoyed that anyway. Give me a shout, everyone, to make sure you can see me and hear me, because you know how bad my internet is, so it's always touch and go when I start the live chat. I'm going to go straight in and bring Neil straight on, just so you know that you haven't got the wrong week, guys. And I'll introduce you properly when we get them on screen. 2 seconds. Hi. Did you enjoy the Little Brown Dog compilation video from last week?
Yeah. I wasn't going to be calling any of the fans ball bags, but now that we've got that dialed in, if that's going to be the style of night, it's going to be a fun one.
Oh my gosh. You can tell that I don't usually go live with the chat every week. I just sit quietly with my cup of tea and wait for Mike to press all the buttons for me. But you didn't have an intro video, but I don't think we asked you for an intro video. You maybe got one at hand that you just whap out for occasions like this.
Oh gosh, there is no video footage of me live. As soon as you put a camera on my face, usually it's like, So no, there's, in fact, some of my old bosses might have some very funny video footage, but no, I think it's all been deleted.
Nothing we can share. Well, let me introduce you properly. We do not have Little Brown Dog again. We have got Neil Strachan, who is been in the industry for like a decade now. Don't want to kind of show people how old you are, but about 20, maybe 30.
I've been drinking whiskey for a while, but 10 years in the industry, yeah.
Fab. So let's start with what have you got in your glass tonight? I see we've got a few people on the chat. So I'm going to go back up and say hello to everybody properly, because obviously I went into massive panic mode of like, I don't know how to make that video stop. So we've got Dutch Dure on tonight. We've got Dave Fackerson with your Christmas. Jesus, Dave, how big is your fucking Christmas cake? You've been eating that for weeks. And what have you got in your glass? Now you've got a Glengarry. Nice choice. Well done. I saw you're off shopping for Glengarry at Bankery the other day as well. You're becoming quite the super fan, which I love. Have a dram for everybody that's playing the Glengarry game. We should probably explain, Neil, that quite accidentally, every time Glengarry is mentioned, people have to have a dram because it seems to be mentioned every single week. I don't know why. I can't think of a reason why. I hope he's going to fetch a Glengarry. Who else do we have this evening? We've got Scott, evening to you. We've got Big Poor. Hi, guys. We've got the usual crowd on. We've got Ed. Nice to see you all. What else have we got in glasses? We've got Woven and the Black Bull. Hopefully not in the same glass. You're doing side-by-side glasses tonight. That's quite impressive. What else have we got? I think that's everybody so far. What have you been off to fetch?
I would love to say there was a bottle. I'd love to say there was a bottle of Founders Reserve sitting here. However, it's been drilled. Like, it's too good.
Nice.
I need to go and get another tasting organized. So I need to come see you again.
I know. If only you knew somebody that worked there, right? Well, I thought
my favorite. It's still my favorite.
It's such a like bang for buck dram. It's what, £34.50, like cask strength. No, cask strength it's not. It's 48%. It's such a good whiskey. Can't go wrong with that.
I would say it's blow your heat off juice, personally.
It is a sitting down dram.
There's been many a fun night on that stuff.
Oh, awesome. Well, I thought I'd go in honor of your new role and I'd go Irish, but I'd stick to the company, and I've gone for a Kilbeggan tonight.
Oh,
so
lovely.
I will put that in my glass in a little bit once I finish my cup of tea. Okay, so we've already got people kind of joining in who obviously know you, and we've got some questions coming through. But before we get into that, let's just, for everybody else who maybe hasn't come across you yet, who are you and what do you do and what have you done? Tell us all about you.
Hi everyone. So my name is Neil Strachan. For I suppose in relevant terms to this podcast, it was about 10 years ago now that I was helping a friend do a cocktail bar up in Dufftown. It so happened to be for a group of VIPs from Asia, was all I was told. And it so happened that the lady that was hosting these individuals was the boss of Southeast Asia. And she presented her card and asked me to apply for the Balvenie role. And, you know, a few job interviews later, you know, William Grant & Sons is an incredibly hard job interview process for certainly ambassadors. So I had a cheeky 7 job interviews. And then finally, Ian Miller, so distiller, the legend that is Distiller Miller, said, this is a bar you want for Asia. So I ended up living in Singapore as the face of the Balvenie brand for 4.5 years, which, you know, when you're looking after the Southeast Asian region, where you have Philippines, Thailand, my personal favorite, Malaysia, and then opening up Vietnam, you meet a lot of amazing individuals, especially being the, you know, the white boy from Aberdeen that hadn't really seen much of the world until that point. And then I think I did like quite a good job at that. And then they invited me over to go and take the West Coast of America role, which included Anchorage all the way down to New Orleans and everything west in the territory. So saw a lot of America, some amazing fond memories there, but totally different market to Asia. You know, Asia and their drinking culture is so interesting in so many ways. And then you get to America, which again is quite a wild kind of scene, but very different, not bottles on the tables. And it was, you know, phenomenal time. I got to work with David Stewart so many times, and you know, being the longest serving whiskey maker in the industry, his knowledge is just exceptional. I'm sure we'll geek out about David later on. And then when I moved back to Scotland, I had a short period of time at Brown-Forman, looking after their their VIPs coming into the distilleries. You know, people like yourself coming up to see Glenglassaugh. Wow. Well, you know, which will raise a glass to Glenglassaugh, and we will do. Peace. No, it's just a little bit of a slip. It's all right. It'll still be live and kicking.
Isn't that mad though? I know we're jumping about a little bit, but isn't that mad how quickly one like post on social media literally like blew up? Because it was based off of that
TJ,
one post.
My boy TJ, like a tour guide. Yeah, like, you know, TJ, a tour guide, an absolute whiskey geek at Glendronach. He got the opportunity to go into production. And he was a legend, you know, the amount of knowledge and like history that he shared about that distillery. I used to come to him for information about stuff all the time. Really good guy. So if anyone's needing like a good like operator for their distillery, get in touch with TJ, get him hired, because he'd be an asset to anyone's team if there's any distillers on here.
Yeah, 100%. Such a nice lad as well. I really hope he gets his way back into the whiskey world.
I'm sure he will.
Man, and just how quickly that exploded over the internet. Crazy.
Yeah, it was great. I was like, TJ, this is good. You're in a whiskey career, son. I've never seen this exposure. I don't get this kind of level. Right, well done, sir. Let's raise a glass to you. But then back on to the question, before we get into more juicier things, I had to leave Speyside, which was rather devastating because friends of mine asked me to open a bar for them in Aberdeen. So a little bit 360. And I'm back in Aberdeen. There's an Irish bar that's just opened called O'Malley's. It's an Irish bar. We're focusing predominantly on Irish whiskey, which is really cool for me because of the amount of fun I've had in Ireland with my Irish friends. So we're getting to recreate some of that in Aberdeen. And yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I mean, like you say, your career has kind of gone 360. You've obviously started out in bars and kind of done the full brand ambassadorial around the world sort of showbiz kind of world. Now you're back to the bright lights of Aberdeen with an Irish bar, which is a very, very cool bar. I was very impressed with it. I liked all the green. It was great.
There's a lot of green, isn't there?
There's a lot of green. But it was rammed to the... my language is awful. It was rammed when I went in that night when I came to say hello. So it's obviously doing very well. Although the sport was on the TV, all the sports. So I guess that helps.
all the sports, and I can't say this, but like a lot of people say it. So what the crowd say, it's the best pint of Guinness in Aberdeen. We're very fortunate with that. So yeah, good Guinness, good Irish whiskey. The Irish coffee is banging, based on the Bona Vistas. If anyone has ever been to San Francisco, it's based on that. Perfect.
Well, if Rick's watching, I think Rick, if you are watching, you're based in San Francisco, I think, aren't you? But I haven't seen him in the chat, so it's maybe still a bit early for him because it's breakfast time with him. So say hello if you're on the chat, Rick. Did I ask you what was in your glass tonight? I think I just barreled on straight ahead because I was so mortified that the little brown dog video was showing.
Yeah, well, I was having a look. I was like, oh, geez, if I'm going to be on for a while, I better get some drams. I was looking around the house, and the dram depletion rate has gone. There's been a few evaporated, but
Okay.
I thought I would start with something that definitely looked as though it was needing emptied, which is a Cavalan Distillery edition, and it's a rum finished version that never saw the market at the time of me visiting there. But I had a great day with them, and it was like, oh, well, if we're talking about all the stories, there'll be something about Taiwan. So starting off with a rum cask Cavalan, and I forgot it was at cask strength, and it's just at a casual 57.1%. And what I like about Cavalan, it has a fire to it. Just about spat it over the screen. I was like, whew, look, this is a wee bit of fiery, man.
The Americans must have loved you with your Northeast accent when you turned up there. It must have been like a bit of a shock to the system when you come galloping in a boot with your wellies and your Northeast accent.
Well, I might have gotten a wee bit more chook since moving back to the northeast of Scotland. It was polite, well-spoken, Neil, most of the time in California. But yeah, and I have to apologise to everyone in the comments. I can't get onto the chat for some reason because there's plenty of people I'd like to be giving some chat to. But Rick, absolute pleasure. I have fond memories from Northern California, especially Palo Alto. The Bay Area is just amazing. Loved it.
Oh yeah, it is Rick. Hi, Rick. I don't know did I say you were from North Carolina? I don't know where I said you were from, Rick. I think I just shouted you out and maybe told people you were from the wrong place, but it's nice to see you. I think we've got somebody that knows you, Neil, is asking about your first night in Krakatoa, which sounds like the start of an amazing story. It's Fraser.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was just going to ignore Fraser's chat on that front, but when someone...
You should have given me a heads up.
No. But I suppose when someone tries to sell you golf karaoke on a Wednesday night, your mind thinks about other things. You do not think that Frozen is going to be getting sung. And fantastic bar, Krakatoa. If you want to see a really good drinks collection in Aberdeen, go in Krakatoa. It's good. And go to golf karaoke on a Wednesday night because, it's all the Disney classics.
It's like golf karaoke. I'm confused by the two concepts. Like you have to play golf and sing at the same time. Like
no, golf.
I think you said golf. I think you said golf.
No.
I was right. Hang on. Golf karaoke singing Frozen. This sounds like an epic night out.
It's blow your mind. It's brilliant.
Wow.
I couldn't sing that place's praises any higher on a Wednesday night.
I mean, like Frozen's quite a big choice to go with because you think it's quite steady, but she really builds as she's going along. I mean, that's a bold karaoke choice. Hats off to you.
But when you're feeling the room, that elevation, and you get to that point, you can belt out that chorus on Frozen, no problem.
Well, see, the golf made sense to me because you like golf, right? You're a golfer.
I do indeed,
sport.
Yeah, I'm definitely a keen golfer. A very, very keen golfer, but singing at the golf club, no.
Are there rules about? So I think golf to me is quite a strict sport. So I've done a couple of whiskey events on the course, the golf green grass, the flat bit where they kick off from. I don't know. Help me! Don't just sit there.
No, just let it on. I think the crowd will love to hear what you're going to be calling the bats that you hit golf balls with, etc.
The sticks, yeah. So like we had this golf stick. So yeah, like we were there just on like one of the big bits of grass where they were getting ready to like hit the balls.
Yeah, let's be honest. Where I play golf is a relatively prestigious golf club, 6th or 7th oldest club in the world. There's certain ways about how I grew up playing golf, certainly once I moved there from Hazelhead originally. And yeah, there's certainly no singing at Royal Aberdeen, not until the Kumals come in. And if nobody's drank Kumal, you should really have a night on Kumal, because it's really quite a fun, different style of intoxication, you could say.
I think we're creating a whole new night out. We've got golf, we've got Frozen, we've got karaoke. I mean, like, I feel like this is just a new thing. Like, we should just be we should be writing this down now. But yeah, I was like chatting away to my colleague because we're meant to be serving whiskey and stuff, and I got the proper dead eyes. I was like, sorry, because they needed to concentrate to hit their balls with their sticks.
Yeah, I think, you would be someone that would need to be made aware of the situation you're in regarding talking, certainly next to a tee box, because you are the first person that's going to get blamed of, why is she swinging? And, the person that was trying to hit the ball was probably rubbish at golf anyway, and they're just using poor you as an excuse. Shocking.
Probably. Well, the gazebo that we were at actually blew away, so we had to go back to the distillery and get an angle grinder. So that caused a lot of issues when I came back wielding an angle grinder. So do you still golf? Was it something that you like to keep up? It's
the best game in the entire world, and I absolutely love playing it. I was practicing yesterday.
Awesome. But you do... you know what? I'm just waiting to drop myself in a hole there as well. You do squash, right? I don't understand what squash is. You're in a cupboard with a ball, right?
And I was just playing squash before. I had to get on early tonight to play, to get back here to speak to you. The Fine Squash Club send their regards to yourself and Mike, who hosted a fantastic tasting for the club. It's still very much talked about. And I believe some of the weirder club members still try and run in to see you in the shop from time to time.
He's lovely. And he dragged his wife in, who was so hungover and couldn't even bear to look at the bottles, but they spotted us and came running in. They were just the sweetest couple. We had so much fun doing that tasting at the squash club. Everyone was really, really nice. It was a lot of fun. Oh, well, that's you. So thank you so much for squashing super fast to come and speak to us tonight. I don't know if that's the adjective. So we're jumping around all over the place, but this is just me. Mike reins me in, but I literally just ask people whatever comes into my head. But we're going to go back to your whiskey career, because I want to know more about like your time in Southeast Asia. So when you were out there, was that like kind of just as whiskey was kind of maybe becoming more popular out there, the sort of the beginning of the kind of the rise of like single malt as opposed to blends, for example?
So that comes into a bit of a bit more of a bigger conversation, I suppose, because we'll forget, and until it was really put in my face, we had massive trading links in the early 1900s to Malaysia, to Singapore, to all these places where at the time when I was working for William Grant & Sons, looking at their family archives and having total access to it, there was invoices from like a company called Cycle and Carriage. Now, Cycle and Carriage is now a Mercedes-Benz dealership, but there is an invoice and description of how the bottle is going to look for them from 1904, sitting in the William Grant & Sons house, one of the houses where some of the archives are. And there's just been a long tradition with blended Scotch whiskey over there. And what was really happening when I was getting over there, it was kind of the start of the premiumization of like the whiskey, when like all of us will go, oh God, whiskey used to be so cheap, just before it started going a bit silly. But what we were doing was changing the perception of individuals that had seen their father, grandfather drinking, Chivas, Johnny Walker, all the big known blends, and trying to get them to like step up, to showcase what single malt is and showcase it in a way that they didn't think it was kind of connected to their stuffy father's way of drinking. I'm really sorry about the bleeping noise in the background if that's really...
You need a battery in your fire alarm. Jesus. Sort your life out.
single man, adulting cat. Come on, it's not the easiest of things to do. And it was amazing to like take people on that journey, and certainly, but for the people that don't know Singapore that are listening in, Singapore has the best whiskey bar in the entire world in it, hands down. I've been in, I don't know, however many hundreds of whiskey bars around the world. I think I was an assistant manager, a really good one back in the day at Malmaison in Aberdeen. But like the Ald Alliance in Singapore, what did we drink in there? Skinnies, no James Gardner. It was certainly not Skinnies. But, the likes of a Samaroli Lefroy, 72, the highest scoring whiskey of all time, I believe. Well, that was all right. That was a nice night. And I remember when Dr. Sam Simmons came over to like see how I was getting on, who was my boss at the time. And so we go into the Ald Alliance and we drink pre-1900s Chivas Brothers bottling in there. Like, sorry, absolute unicorns in there. Like the full Kurosawa card series, wartime Macallans. The access to like some of the rarest whiskey in the entire world was there. And I had a credit card for training and education. And it was all training and education for myself. So you have some of the most knowledgeable, biggest whiskey geeks in the world, and probably the best whiskey fair in the world as well, called the Malta Fair, which is just all the collectors pull out their bottles and put them on a table. And it's just a free-for-all on trying some of the rarest, Dallas Dews from the 70s. All this stuff is just there. And if you're the Balvenie guy and you know these people, they're like, oh, we don't need a token. Just try it, Neil. Try this, try this. And you'd be just trying some of the rarest and oldest whiskey you've ever seen. And that was Singapore. The rest of Asia was slightly different. Southeast Asia was slightly different. But, just drinking culture over there is so different that it was just eye-opening in every single way. And each market, each different, people that you were dealing with, even in north and south of countries, there was little different tweaks and changes in how you had to present, levels of respect, and all these like small little different things that made Southeast Asia amazing. But then you got the rest of Asia, which is China, Japan, Taiwan, Korea, that I was also invited up to host tastings at. And that was good because that was out of my market. I was treated like a king in those markets. And truly, I couldn't have the best 4.5 years of my entire life being in Asia. When I look back, very hard years. In a lot of ways of being stuck so far away from like Scotland and being somewhere that is so different as well, but managed to get through that. But the experiences were just phenomenal, and the people I worked with, some of the best in the world. My old boss is now the CEO of Lark Distilling. Another old brand manager is the boss of like Penfolds Marketing now. I worked with a lot of talented individuals in those early days, and the events that you see happening in Scotland, you have to look at and just say cute, because the money that gets spent and the build levels that if you're doing a product launch in China, oh my gosh, it's amazing, to see it in action. So to learn and understand how they enjoy whiskey, and to see how the first time in the world that, oh, okay, whiskey isn't drank like this, and it's really important that it isn't done in the boring old-fashioned way that every horrible tour guide tells people. Oh, we didn't put ice in our whiskey, we didn't mix it with Coke. Shut up, enjoy your whiskey with good company. Like, it matters how you enjoy it. And seeing them just like trashing bottles with dinner, sometimes with ice. I can't drink whiskey with ice, but like, and green tea and monkey shoulder nights. Oh, me, man. Wow, that's a fun night. So, just everything in between. And then you've got Singapore Grand Prix, where we were on like the first turn of the like Singapore government's boxes. And we were there for like I was there for 4 years. Why not? It's a free, just free everything in the booth. You just had to talk some whiskey to some people. So Asia was real good. Yeah, Asia was real good.
That sounds like mad. It sounds like everybody's kind of dream or like impression of what brand ambassador is. Usually when you speak to brand ambassadors, like, oh no, it's nothing like you see on Instagram. It's, you know, living out of suitcases and stuff. But oh, my internet is so shit. I'm back. Are you still there? Can everybody still hear
yeah,
me?
so there's, you know, there is a lot about the ambassador life that is incredibly difficult. I suppose on mental capacity, traveling around, bits and pieces like that. However, especially with how like William Grant and Sons, and you know, I was so fortunate that the owner's son sat behind me in Singapore. His uncle wrote me a handwritten letter thanking me for a launch of Glenfiddich 50 at Singapore in the early days. And when you get so much kind of like access to these people and you see the business, it makes a bad day, like the hard times and the hard work, you think it's all right. You know, it can't all be a dream, but behind all the glamour shots of like the goings on, like the big events would be painful, you know, really, really painful. We didn't do sales, luckily, at William Grant Sons. It was a complete advocacy role. I would take the credit for any 40 sales or any DCS compendiums that got sold because of me. However, it was all just advocacy. It was hosting. It was making sure your event was the best, and you know, it was a really, really interesting role to be in. But yeah, some dark days. See, after a 3-4 day, gosh, I better loosen up my tongue. After like a 3 days in Penang, where you're in the airport in the morning because there's only one flight going back to Singapore, or you need to be on the early flight. It's a really grim morning. It's really, really grim. But hey, you put yourself in that place. So
I guess there is like a lot of late nights, and I guess this kind of, I mean, a lot of it is involved with drinking alcohol, or at least giving the impression that you're, you know, drinking with them. I mean, it's, yeah, I guess. What do you think the sort of the main characteristic of a good brand ambassador would be? Is it like being a people person? Is it like enthusiasm, or a combination of all those things?
Two things that what you said there, and people manage those two things perfectly well. Late nights and alcohol does not necessarily need to be the world of the brand ambassador. However, when you rather like a drammy and you lived in Blether for 4.5 years and you're quite sociable, there was a lot of whiskey and an awful lot of late nights going into the mornings, and it would be fine. And I loved every moment because there's a lot of stories. And there's so many good people out there that don't do that. It was just every week I lived it, I was like, shit, I could get fired at any point. Just let's make the most of this. Let's experience people. These people seem friendly. Let's go out and see what their night's like. And I've probably got a magnet in me that attracts like quite wild people. And all my friends have got a certain little glint in their eye that there's a wildness to them. All around the world, it's like there's something. So that attracts. So there was a lot of fun nights everywhere. But, you know, the best qualities of being an ambassador, you know, for me, and I had the privilege of working with some of the best, but then back home in Scotland, like before I joined the ambassador world, I think Daryl Haldane, still to this day, is one of the best alcohol educators there is anywhere in the world. Like,
also a very snappy dresser and fabulous beard. Like, that man can wear a beard. He is.
Well, you know, I don't really care about the beard because if it's blowy in Aberdeen, usually my one's gone. So it's a waste of time.
Right off your face.
Yeah. But, you know, people like him, Ian Miller, you know, Distiller Miller, someone waxing lyrically about whiskey in such a way is insane. And as we're, you know, next month we're coming up to like National Women's Day and the celebrations around that and women in whiskey. And when I look back at some of the women I worked with, you know, and hopefully Jamie Johnson over in Canada is listening. Gemma, oh, I've got, what is Gemma's second name? Gemma, I'll always know her as Gemma Patterson. You know, and Alwyn, who used to be the UK brand ambassador that some of you guys will know. Some of my favorite people in the entire world to sit and drink whiskey with, you know. So look at their characteristics. Hella knowledgeable. Been there, done that. Most of them have got exceptional noses, but it's the ability to tell a story, to conduct yourself and hold a room, and to be a good ambassador. There's plenty of people that I just wouldn't even bother watching because they're so boring. To be an ambassador, you have to be able to hold a room. Like, and there's so many ambassadors out there that I've seen that I'm just like, how do you still have a job? You must have been a lot better at the paperwork than I ever was, because it's not for your chat. It's boring as hell. They don't know technically enough. And I've always gone back to the point that a whiskey tasting, especially when you're holding like a crowd. So if it's a dinner experience, doesn't matter if it's in a 2 Michelin star restaurant in Palo Alto, in like Tower Block in Singapore, to like just a boozer somewhere, or like what the Americans call like a dive bar. You need to hold that crowd, and you need to make it fun, and you need to know who your crowd are to make it fun for them. And it's okay if your brand, I suppose, is focused on one demographic, so it's the same stuff over the time. You know, that wasn't the case ever at Balvenie. You know, we'd have 6 billion net worth in the room one day, and then you were in like a KTV in Asia, or, you know, doing something totally different. So you always had to be with it and be able just to communicate really well on whatever you're saying. But, you know, there's some brand ambassadors out there that are hella boring. So they still managed to do it, you know?
You are right, and I'm not going to mention any names, but yeah, you are 100% right. However, I guess it is intimidating. It's because I say this about tour guides, because a lot of people are quite dismissive of tour guides. They think that you're just given a script, and let's say, you know, you're just like a robot. It could be, but a good tour guide is a similar characteristic, because you've got to read the room and change up what you're saying based on level of interest, level of understanding, what country they're from. And there's not many people that can have that sort of awareness, that can switch up and take the same information that they're saying all the time, and they'll change it in and out to suit the audience. I mean, it's quite a skill. So, and a similar concept is, or similar frame as a brand ambassador, I guess. So I mean, I don't think that comes naturally to everybody, and neither should it. We've all got different talents and things that we're good at, but yeah.
But it's also like, you know, my good pals have, you know, from the early days when, or even before I had, you know, a job with a whiskey brand, was, oh, me, man, you just talk shite. What a load of shite you talk. Oh, you talk shite for a living. And then I basically did. And I was like, why is all that training just working on people, being in bars, understanding customers? But I coached squash for 3 years when I was 16, and the gentleman that taught me how to like coach to like a kind of different level, it was a lot about communication, how you get people to do things you want them to do, even though they're more highly better than you at these things. How do you speak to these people? How do you get them on that level with you? Which was, you know, even at 16 years old, that taught me so much. And then, you know, fast forward, likes of Balvenie, we were doing the stories range at the time. It was global launches for all of that. We went on a storytelling workshop for a day. It was outstanding. Like really fun things.
Yeah, we do them at work. We put the staff on them. They're really, really good fun.
Yeah, and it puts people in an uncomfortable position. It helps you articulate. I'm maybe a little bit too wild, because I'm notorious for looking like I'm in a rave when I'm hosting a tasting. My hands are usually like all over the place, and it's pretty aggressive usually. But I can't stay still usually. That's why I basically tied myself down to the chair for this.
I like the adjectives you're using to describe yourself as a brand ambassador. Wild, like a rave. Like I kind of feel like we've had golfing karaoke. It's like some sort of crazy whiskey orgy that you were throwing around the world. It's an interesting concept you're creating for us here. We need to get you back into brand ambassadorial stuff.
Well, you know, who knows? This could be the start.
This could be the start.
Back in the game.
Watch out, world! Here he comes. So yeah, so moving over to America, obviously a different vibe, different sort of drinking style. I guess maybe not as much to learn culturally. No offense to the Americans, I just mean the Asian markets may be very different from the sort of British American kind of similarities.
No, Asia, once you spend like a little bit of time in Asia, ask some questions, it's understandable. America is still wild. Like I have never, like, you know, Asia's our type of people. You know, from the northeast of Scotland, they're our type of people. America, oh, my Scottish tongue could get me into plenty of trouble. And
I hope that's like literally like it's not a euphemism. I mean, like
no. Just well, actually, sorry, my voice box that then came out past, but everywhere's so different. And I think that, you know, for the listeners from the northeast of Scotland and then further afield in the UK, we think we're so closely connected to America in so many ways, and then you get there and it's like, I didn't know any of this. And it was probably, there was more learning in America than there was in Asia. And I learned so much good stuff in Asia, but America was just like, wow, every state's different. From North to Southern California is different. From, gosh, I lived in downtown LA at the start. There to like, even just the beach when I moved to afterwards, it was like, whoa, everything is so far from what I perceived, and yeah, right, like just so different. so far away from what I thought it was going to be like, you know, so different, but good in so many other ways, but like just real different.
yeah, I mean, I've never been to America, but it just always seems like I'm always amazed of like, I'm not amazed, but like the fact that you could have like one state that's like desert, and then you hop on a plane and you're like literally it's just, you know, snow up to your armpits, and then you've got, it's just like, it's such a huge place. Like whenever Americans come into the distillery, you're like, oh, where are you off to next? I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to go up to like the Isle of Skye, then we're going to go to like Orkney, and then we're going to drive to London, and then you're like, Jesus, take a day off. But like they're like, that's just normal, those distances. It's mad.
And it's so much easier driving there that like I would drive down to San Diego for a day's visit, which if you time the traffic, unluckily is 4 hours, could be worse, or it's 2.5 hours, but it's still 100 plus miles down, and you're just down easy, one road, simple, you know. But then even just driving around, it's just amazing, you know, like the place. We think, you know, up here we live in God's country, and we like, it's pretty good, Scotland. And then you get to places in America. I did a road trip in COVID, and we did 3 national parks: Bryce, Zion, and the Grand Canyon. And hey, hats off to the Grand Canyon. It deserves its name. It is so grand. And see, if you wake up at sunrise and sit and watch it, it was one of the most majestical experiences I've ever had in my entire life. And yeah, it deserves its grand name. Like, fair play. No lies there, honestly.
I love that endorsement. Yeah, well done, America. Named that canyon right. It's pretty grand. I love that. Well, there you go. You heard it here. Fully endorsed by Neil. It's a grand canyon indeed. I need to go and see America one day. Would you go back, do you think? If you could choose a country or a place in the world where you could be a brand ambassador again, would you go back to where you've been, or would you choose somewhere different you haven't explored yet?
Okay, so this is the pitch. I've never done South America. My Spanish and Portuguese is incredibly squiffy, to say the least, but if anyone wants me to come down, I would move down to South America in an instant, only because I've not ticked the box off yet. Or the Caribbean, I think, would be quite suitable. But other than that, I'd go back to America as well. But it would have to be for the right job, because it's pretty expensive. You know, the cost of living over there is incredibly, incredibly high. But there's a lot of good people there.
Yeah, well, you know, Harrison Ford's wandering around Scotland somewhere filming videos for Glenmorangie. So, you might bump into him somewhere and you can sort of chum him up for a job in the US somewhere.
And I'm going to have to ask for a little bit of like commentary coming through from like everyone that's listening in. Does everyone not think that's the best celebrity partnership that has ever happened of all time? Like, Harrison's my boy because he's Indiana Jones. I don't care about Star Wars, poke that. He's Indiana Jones for me. He's my favorite. How? Like, what is the chat saying,
I know. I was going to ask about this because, I would imagine that Brown's Foreman were so happy that they announced Harrison Ford and Glenmorangie the day after the Glen Glassa post went viral, because literally the whole of the internet was just covered in Harrison Ford wearing a kilt, holding a bottle of scotch, which he just looks epic. Dave Fagerson, are you not into Harrison Ford? So this is my question for everyone tonight. If a distillery could be endorsed by a celebrity, what would be the match? So you've got Glenmorangie and you've got Harrison Ford. Like, what else? What's the other combinations? I was trying to think who Glengarry would be. So I'm thinking.
Well, the thing is, like, if I'm picking a celebrity for Glenmorangie, there's no way I'm picking Harrison Ford because nobody's even putting that on the radar. It has got, I don't think, any relevance to like their very artsy fartsy, really cool way of having their bottles. But you've got Harrison Ford now, so like it matters. Like all these like Star Wars fans are going to be buzzing about it. Like think about what the Han Solo edition is going to be like. Oh, it's going to sell so well.
Straight away everyone was hashtagging Dram Solo, which I didn't get to begin with because I hate Star Wars, I hate space, I hate aliens. Aliens are ridiculous. Like, this was the Fraser chat as well. When we had Fraser on, I ended up speaking for ages about how much I hate aliens. So I'm just not into Star Wars at all. But yeah, that was the hashtag that went viral straight away, Dram Solo, which I thought was pretty clever, to be honest. But how did that even come about? Like, how does that conversation happen? It's like Dr. Bill just chatting to Beyonce, like, here, do you know Harrison? And he's like, oh yeah, he used to stand up on the road. Like, how does it all come about? It's mad.
So honestly, this is how it happened in my head. So Dr. Bill's doing a chance tasting in LA somehow. But, he gets speaking to some people outside of the pub, and then he gets invited up to Wyoming because Harrison Ford must be filming one of the Yellowstone previews. He's up there. There's a bit of chat. He's wasted. He's having a great time. And then he bumps into Harrison. But Harrison's also had a skinful of whiskey. They start chatting, and the next second, bang, out of nowhere, this love of each other have come about. I don't think that will be in the case, but my God, I'd love to be sitting in the marketing meetings, like when like the brand heads or the brand manager must have like the biggest pigeon chest in the world at the moment going, I got Harrison under my watch. That is, yeah. So,
it is pretty
and
mad.
do like, and Dave Fagerson, why do we need these people? Hey, it opens up the door for more random people like going, okay, wait. And it just allows certain individuals to get passionate about whiskey that might not be involved in it. And it just opens more jobs for people in Scotland, basically. That's why we need these people. I don't think we need, but like certainly as a geek that worked on the marketing side for 10 years, I want them, I think it makes it for fun conversation.
This is it, because I guess, there's maybe a lot of Americans that have never even tried like Scotch whiskey, like they know American whiskey, and they see Harrison Ford somewhere beautiful in Scotland in a kilt with this brand. If it opens up a new market somewhere in America, then all to the good, I suppose. If he's not harming the brand and the reputation of or not making it too kind of like twee or,
I thought he looked quite good in that kilt, I was like, oh my boy.
He does. It was a good lunge. He had a very good kilt lunge going on. But yeah, I think, I think it'll be a bit of fun because apparently all the staff members were allowed to act in some of the films as well. So it's like the whole kind of, what's the guy called that loves Lagavulin?
Nick Offerman. Yeah, it's such a good pairing that linked naturally, and that's the best celebrity pairing there's ever been. Like, hands down because of the natural fit of Parks and Rec. He already drank it in Parks and Rec, and he had this cult following for it already, and they just got it done.
I know, it's good. I like Scott's suggestion, Glasgow Distillery and Billy Connolly. That would be a pretty epic pairing as well. That's a good shout, actually.
Always just a hard one when you've got a teetotaler as the face of your brand, you know?
True. Yeah, that's true. Okay, we might have Glengarry would be Clint Eastwood, one of the oldest in the game, but still belting out some cracking releases. I love you, Fraser. That's an awesome shout.
That's why Fraser
I was thinking like
had a global job and I was only a regional guy because of like gold dust like that. Simple.
Well, that's often like so. Like selfishly, I was just thinking of somebody like Scottish, hot and single. But in the bigger picture, Clint Eastwood is a much better shout. Actually, he's pretty cool for his age. He must be a fair age. He must be like, would he be about 80 or something now? I don't know.
He's about 90. I think.
I could easily find him a horse to sit on some cattle for him to kind of muster up while he's up kind of promoting Glengarry. The mart's just down the road. We'd easily sort that out for him. That'd be amazing. Get him some chaps. He could borrow yours, Neil.
Yeah. Not a problem, you know. I'm quite an equine man as well, you know. Throw me into any situation. I'll be there dressed appropriately.
94 years old. He is 94 years old. That's madness. He looks really good for it as well because he produces films and stuff too, doesn't he? I like that combination. I think we've got a couple of good ones coming through. Billy Connolly for the Glasgow Distillery. Yeah, Clint Eastwood for Glengarry. Keep firing them through, guys, because I think this has got legs. We're going to get a pairing for each distillery by the end of the night. Who else do you think would be a good celebrity endorsement for a distillery then, Neil?
All just starts to get all personal on who I'd want to work with every single time. And, you know, wow.
You can't just choose hot, attractive actors. It's got to be like...
Well, if it's only actresses that are the problem, you know?
I was going to the collective terms.
You know, that's a really good question. Honestly, like Harrison Ford was like, oh my God, I'm in love with this. Because like, he's my Indiana Jones. It's like the best. Just my favorite film star of all time. But gosh, you know, I have no idea. Like no celebrities don't interest me that much. Like,
I'm not very good with names of celebrities, to be honest. And I can't even think who. I don't know. I think I have to kind of think of old school ones. Like, I can't even think of a good celebrity just now, actually. That's terrible. All I can think of is Kim Kardashian and Tom Cruise. And I don't know why they're the only two that are coming into my head. But I think it's maybe because, like, they're the most famous ones I know. I don't know.
Particularly fun behind the scenes at an event, I would imagine. But the problem with a lot of these celebrity things, so at Balvenie, they were incredibly proud of the work that was done with Anthony Bourdain. That was so cool. But in the first meeting I went at to Google who Anthony Bourdain was at the time, because I was like, don't need to know about an American celebrity chef. Have you seen who we've got on the British Isles? So I had to Google him. Yeah, now then I know who Bourdain is. It's like, yeah, hats off, Bourdain. Well done. That was quite cool. But I don't know. It's so difficult because I think if there's not a tie into the brand and it doesn't mean anything, everyone knows it's fake. And that's why the Lagavulin thing is so pure. But yeah, you just want to do with your idol that you thought was going to be fun and you hope that they weren't going to disappoint you. So I suppose I'd be like an old school golfer and see how they were, or like a snowboarder, one of the pro snowboarders that I love. Be like, yeah, let's do it with him. That'll be fun. But yeah.
I mean, I would need to Google. I would need to Google them if they turned up. You're like, oh, this is so and so. I'm like, I don't know who that is. Karaoke golf.
We're building the concept out now. This is becoming a thing.
It really is. I feel like it's got legs. Every week we end up saying, I usually end up saying something ridiculous that ends up taking off and becomes a weird idea by the end of the chat. So I think karaoke golf might be similar to crazy golf, I suppose, but just with singing. It's
I think maybe filling like the clubs in the shafts, we fill them with whiskey, so then you just drink the whole way around. That's again builds. Edward Dower and
That
Tony
is,
Soprano.
yeah. I mean, yeah. The more we talk, the more the ideas are flowing.
Yeah, Edward Dower and Tony Soprano.
I mean,
You're going to have to explain that one, sir. I'm needing that explained. We're getting some gold dust coming through, but Kyle, I'm needing an explanation. Well, Edward Dower and Tony, I'm not seeing the link, but I'm looking forward to the link. But
maybe the link is that's their two favorite things. Maybe that's the link. Edward Dower is the only whiskey that I have not been sure about because it was just very, very sweet. And I didn't like it that much. I might need to go back to it one day and revisit it. But the distillery was just don't bother.
Other than some of the old single cast stuff they used to do in the interesting cast, can't remember last time I had a good one.
I think you can't. No, it's fine. I don't think Edward will be watching. I think you're okay. Unless they Google you, and they'll have to watch this back, and they'll be like, "But yeah."
55 minutes in, we've gone through the plighties at the start. They're like, "Oh, he's an upstanding individual."
That's it. As long as they cut off before 52 minutes, they'll be fine. So yeah. Definitely, I think the whole not Billy Connolly, the whole Harrison Ford thing is a bit of a fun thing for Glenmorangie. Definitely fun for the staff as well. But do you know what I loved about it actually? So I don't know if anybody remembers on the chat, but there used to be a Glenmorangie TV advert. You know what translates to the Glen of Tranquility? And this guy would, I think he was like maybe somewhere busy like a city, and he takes a sip of Glenmorangie, sits down in this leather armchair, and he's transported into this big beautiful glen. And it just says Glen of Tranquility. So I loved that advert as like a teenage girl. And my grandpa used to drink Glenmorangie. Now she's got a wee dippy finger because I used to go in and sweep out his greenhouse. He'd give me a wee dippy finger. And that whole connotation of like this sort of this iconic sort of Scotch brand, and then associating it with like my grandpa and like nice times when I was a little girl, made me fall in love with the whiskey world, which is how I'm now here today talking absolute shit to you guys. But I love the still footage of Harrison Ford. They obviously kind of linked back to that original advert, which I think is very, very cool. So I really like the whole kind of Harrison Ford thing. But I do get why people get pissed off with celebrity endorsements, because sometimes they are just a bit meaningless if they just put some ex-footballer onto some brand that nobody's that excited about. But
you've got to all, if you haven't seen it, YouTube Spey with Michael Owen. Michael Owen, hey, hats off, he got a Ballon d'Or. The most boring person to ever listen to, and his Spey commercials I think might have only been in Chinese market, or certainly Southeast Asian market as well. Wow, the worst you've ever seen. So if you haven't seen them, go onto YouTube and find them, because they are dull.
I'll need to go and have a look. Have you met any other celebrities? And this goes for everybody in the chat as well. Who's top tier celebrity that you've met over the years, either by accident or through work?
Having Al Pacino in the room is always interesting, and which didn't really work with one of my staff the other day when she went, "Who's that?" And I was like, oh gosh, if you don't know who Al Pacino is, that's a problem. Definitely my biggest problem was Jensen Button. Fanboy.
I've seen a picture of you with him.
Yeah, I'm an absolute fanboy of Jensen, and his pal, Ant Anstel. This is sounding really LA, but Ant Anstel, who, to my last of my knowledge, was going out with Renée Zellweger. But Ant Anstel is more famous for Wheeler Dealer, Discovery Channel's most sold show. Ant Anstel's in that. So I say to Ant, we're at a car launch thing that they're doing. And I'm like, Ant, go and get Jensen over. Jensen's my boy. I was always supporting Jensen. Like when he was going, I didn't care who anyone else was. It was like, go Jensen. And it was, yeah. He came over, and this is before he launched his whiskey. We were talking about actually his whiskey a year before he launched it. And it was like, I kind of want to talk about cars with you, but you can't, because you know nothing in comparison to this guy. And I just froze, and I had just a little moment of like, oh, you geek, go and speak. Or why did you not drink more whiskey just now? Or why did you drive to this event so you're not drinking whiskey so you can speak with Jensen? Lost it.
Oh, well, it's nice to meet your heroes though and find out that they're maybe not arseholes. So at least you had that moment.
Oh, he was so
I
sad.
don't
Him,
know.
his wife, everyone, they were really, really nice people. Really nice. It was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, he's like, he's cars, right? Like the F1 cars, right?
Yeah, he won. He won the world championship with a team that should never have won it. He did what was impossible. Possible, something that was just impossible. So yeah, he's a bit of a hero.
Did he do it in a Ford car? Because that would have been amazing if he did.
It wasn't far off of it. It wasn't far off of it. They tweaked the bodywork a little bit, and that was it.
Fantastic. So there's hope for my one yet. Just put some Go Faster stripes on it and I'll be next career. Amazing. Yeah. I try to think who the best celebrity I've met is. I haven't met that many. I think probably the most notorious, or not notorious, but well-known one would be Prince Charles, I suppose. He was actually really, really nice. He's a bit of a gentleman and he was quite funny. It was really nice to meet him. But I think that's maybe about it, to be honest.
I like Charlie. I like Charlie. He spends a lot of time with he's a good man.
He is actually.
Better to watch what the comments could really light up on this one.
Yeah, in case anti. Yeah, so I was not up nor down about meeting royalty. I mean, it was exciting, but I wasn't excited because he was a member of the royal family. But yeah, he kind of went totally off script, and because we were handling a sort of itinerary, and it was down to the last minute of His Royal Highness will go to this room and have 1.5 minutes, of rest time, and then you'll be escorted here, and then you'll go here and there. So we're like, Jesus, this is going to be intense. But as soon as he got there, he went totally off script. I don't even know if he's aware of the rider and the script and the work that goes into before he gets there. And he just went off to go and meet babies and shake hands with people and go and chat to the staff, and he was just proper dead nice.
And I've told I've told you where my farming knowledge comes from. It's my mate that's farms directly across in Balmoral, and my very good friend Peter is roch as hell. For anyone that isn't in the northeast, that means he's a little bit rough and ready, and michty, me, and literally. Because of Burke Hall and because of Balmoral, King Charles has invited Peter to his house a couple of times to Burke Hall. His now wife, Ailey, has told me the stories of how scared she's been. But he'll ask about all the yows along in different fields. He'll know about the beasts that are in different farms. And he's passionate about the countryside. And that's why, I suppose, when you've stayed in Ballater and know that way, you treat the royals with a great deal of respect. I just about killed one of the Queen's horses one day, and she comes trotting through the golf course. I was playing golf at Balmoral, and I hit a golf ball so far left that it really just about clonked one of the horses. And then, here we've got Lizzie wandering through. Oh, how are you doing, boys? And a little bit posher than that. All of them up there that I've met have been quite nice, So, yeah.
No, it's nice to hear. We were told before he arrived, you must not at any point try and shake his hand. If you're a lady, you can either bow from the waist or curtsy. So there's only 2 ladies on site that day. And I was like, I'm 100% curtsying, because when else am I going to get to do that? It's not just something you just bob out every now and again. So we're in the warehouse waiting for him to come in.
Everyone that's watching this, if we don't get a curtsy the next time we go through the distillery doors, we're nothing, okay? So let's make that thing now, the cat curtsy.
I'm management. You're curtsying to me, boyo. But I was like, right, I'm proper going to curtsy. So I was practicing, and then we were waiting for him to come in, and one of the higher managers who come in from the head office, he would get a little bit kind of 2 minutes girls, 3 minutes girls sort of thing. So he kept opening the door. So every time he opened the door, we're like, oh, so we're kind of no, don't curtsy yet. So eventually King Charles came in, and he came over to me, and I went to automatically curtsy. He put his hand out to shake hands. So I put my hand out over balance and just kind of tipped over to the side. Ruined my one and only chance to curtsy like a proper lady. But he thought it was funny, and I think that is because they get such a curated version of reality. when actually things go wrong, I think they actually prefer that, and they just get to see real people being stupid and falling over, which I appreciate, because, you know, most of my Instagram reels are just about people falling over, so I totally get why he likes that. So he was a nice guy to meet. But yeah, that's my celebrity story. He wouldn't swap lives with any royals. Fantastic privilege, but what a peculiar way of living. And yeah, I think we've kind of just touched on that. It is a very different. I mean, all posh people live slightly differently. I love posh people. I've worked for posh people for a long, long time, and they do have a much better way of living. They have expensive bupa livers and just live fantastically out of the realms of reality. I absolutely love it. If I could marry into money, I will. So anybody on the chat who is single and posh, give me a shout out. But yeah, they just live a different life, don't they? It's amazing. I should have been born into royalty, I think.
I'm going to second, if anyone's out there and rich, you know, I can be a fantastic house husband. You'll always have a nice cooked meal when you get home. There'll be a good dram. The dogs will be walked. Let's sell ourselves, Kat. You know, there's a lot we can move off to the millionaires watching the podcast just now.
I know, right? We could probably, like, screw Tinder. We could literally solve our problems right now. But if the dogs would have amazing names like Pilot and like Titus and things like that, wouldn't they? They'd have like, it would be like gun dogs with really posh names. I love it.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, no, I don't know if any of my dogs would have names, because it'd be the keeper's job to look after them. So it would just be like there'd be 12 spaniels that just ran around beside me, but my dog, I think, would be a deerhound for the castle, because why not?
They are beautiful dogs. That's a good choice, actually. That's quite a posh choice. I realize we're just talking about dogs and there's so much chat going, so I'm going to go back, because somebody did ask you a question and the chat's moved on so fast. I just need to go back and find it. It's Kyle again. Neil, did you set up I haven't got my glasses on. I couldn't find them earlier. Did you set up the Questlove stuff with Balvenie whilst in LA? Is that a thing? Questlove? It sounds like a dating show.
Okay, so Questlove is an incredibly important person in the world of music. So, of course, you're well aware of the Roots. He was a drummer in the Roots. If you're not a music person, you're not going to know who the Roots are. But if you watch a little bit of Jimmy Fallon on what we see over here, Questlove, or his actual name, Amir, is the drummer with the afro on Jimmy Fallon. But he is known around the world to be one of the most knowledgeable, has one of the biggest record collections in the world. If you want to talk music, Questlove, I think he's got an Oscar for something as well on music. Questlove's quite a boy. Again, where it comes to problems with like endorsements and stuff like that, I was hosting the brand induction for Questlove. It was over Zoom because it was COVID times, and I was trying to force feed a guy that doesn't drink whiskey. Now, you wouldn't know Questlove doesn't drink because every single drinks company in the world pays for him to like DJ at their parties or whatever. You Google him, he's got a banner of some drinks company behind him. He doesn't drink. So it wasn't really that interesting. And it was something that was in New York, and I was in LA chilling in the sun. So it was something I didn't have to deal with. Not one of my customer base asked me ever once about Questlove because nobody ever watched it. Again, it was utilizing him to speak to a different kind of demographic from where we were talking to with Bourdain 3 years ago. But, you know, that won a lot of awards. It's not whiskey marketing that people that probably watch this are into, but like it won awards, and like it did enough for what people needed it to do. But yeah, Questlove, Amir, a really nice guy. You know, enjoyed 2 hours talking to him about the brand world, but that was the only time I ever saw him. So
that would be a hard sell, like being the face of alcohol and not drinking alcohol. I mean, it's it's not. I mean, yeah, I suppose you don't need to drink alcohol to talk about it, but it helps if you've got an interest, I guess. But
yeah, we kind of like people that drink, that when we're whiskey drinkers and someone's trying to do something, how to make it more authentic. Well, at least they can like sit and have a glass of it with you at some point.
Yeah. Talking of whiskey, I can hear the sound of rustling. You're obviously into your second dram of the night. Have you already poured it? What have you gone for?
You know, to celebrate the fine people of Port Soy and Glenglassaugh, I thought just let's rock out a bottle of Port Soy Glenglassaugh, because I was drinking some peated whiskey the other week and I was like, maybe you're getting back into this again. There was a long time like peat just bored me a bit and I was just like, ugh. But the other week I was like, oh, let's go it. And then I can look at this. Yeah, ace. Good whiskey, is it?
It is very good. I was speaking to somebody at the distillery about this today, and we're trying to decide which was our favourite of the 3 new releases. And I think I like the Port Soy, and I like which I didn't know I was pronouncing wrong. This looks like Sanden, but it's Sanine. And I don't even think you were rude enough to correct me about that, because I was probably mispronouncing it the whole time I was with you at the distillery. But it's lovely. Very good whiskey.
Obviously, there was just too much flapping going on. You were probably having like a fit because my hands were going around. I got very well trained by locals up there that you call it Sanine.
You maybe did correct me.
Oh no, I didn't even need to correct you. I would have been saying it the whole time, I think, but maybe like soft it. But it would have just been, I'd have been too flappy down in the beach when I was discussing it with you.
So. It was very windy when we were there, and I'm pretty sure it had been snowing as well, because it was bloody cold day.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, beautiful though, really lovely.
So that was out. I was kind of thinking tonight was more of a Balvenie night, because I thought I will be sensible and just sip away socially on a Balvenie and see where it goes. But we've done a cast strength Cavalan, and you know, just quite a chewy little meaty that is Port Soy. You know, it's great whiskey. Like I'm a Sandan fan. Like the Sanine for me is the best one out of the 3, because I think it like it plays on my kind of like fun nature, and it's just tropical. It's great. But the people of Port Soy, and being based at that distillery for, I don't know, I didn't last very long, but like 9 months there, they're the best. And if anyone's in Port Soy, go to like the Shore Inn. It is the best pub ever. Used to love going there for a pint. Ace. And the lady Elaine that owns it, her dad worked as a cooper in the distillery. So if you want whiskey geekery, speak to Elaine and she'll tell you some stories about old school Glenglassaugh.
That's right. So lovely. I think the Sanime is the one I end up buying after trying them. I think I've got it here somewhere, but it's a lovely one. Very, very good. And the bottles are so beautiful. I'm a sucker for a beautiful box or a bottle, and I absolutely love the bottles. I literally stood up to my knees in the sea trying to get the perfect picture of that bottle with the waves coming around about it, because it's just so pretty. So pretty. So clever as well. You totally know what they're doing. You totally understand the concept of like the profile of the whiskey when you see that bottle, like the sort of windswept shores, Port Soy. It's lovely. But I'm sure we'll see it back.
Outstanding work on it. So like, just a shame that it wasn't available enough to people to buy, you know, with not knowing what it is or all the problems that the brand has. But like, it should have been a lot bigger, and it shouldn't be in that problem just now, should they? You know, but it's a global thing. It's through so many elements, but yeah, like talking about doing a good brand launch, great liquid, bottling is just so different, and big respect to the brand team on that front, because it's great. It's, you know, just what a job they did on it.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely fantastic. But I'm sure we'll not see the end of it. It's just the way the industry is just now. It's just having a little sort of quieting off period, catch its breath, kind of see the lay of the land, and I'm sure it'll be back again. It's just sad for the staff at the end of the day, but I'm not sure it's going to be the only thing we'll see this year. Who knows? It's too depressing to talk about it. Let's talk about something much nicer. We do. Talking about drinking more, actually, I was going to ask you, when you were talking about like your amazing drams that you had when you were out in Singapore and things, does that kind of like trying stuff like that on a regular basis, you know, like just the unicorn drams, does it kind of change your view of just trying other whiskey? Does like other whiskey just become quite mediocre after a while, because you're like, yeah, it's not like a 1970s Glengarry, Lafroig or whatever, or Glengarry.
Well, to be fair, one of those maybe not such a unicorn, but like one of those standout drams, there was a set, we heavily sponsored someplace down at Raffles or something like that, but it was a whiskey geek that set up the bar, and the idiot bought in, well, not an idiot, because like the bar was never going to sell it, but it was a 1971 and 1972 Glengarry, pair of them sitting there, and they were insane. And obviously that's the glory years for that distillery, or whatever people perceive the glory years to be. But it was like, when I told him that was the first ever distillery I went to, and I was like, that's closest to my home back home. That's like, give me and he was like, oh. And, now chanting, was at Swan Song, he was at the Writing Club. I got to work with him a lot afterwards. That kid knew his whiskey. So like, that was a good shout from me earlier on. That's a pretty good whiskey. But I'd already kind of drank a lot of that kind of whiskey before I even got the Balvenie job. At Malmaison, when we opened Malmaison, we had by far the best collection in Aberdeen by a mile. That when my chum that I'm seeing next week in Austria, Bernd, came in, big whiskey geek. I was only like 20, 21 at the time. And Bernd just was like, right. And he was friends with the guys from Adelphi Selection. And like very, very good friends with them. And I think at 22 years old, I was sent over to the castle to do the tasting notes for Adelphi Selection's next year's bottlings. But then, so that was cool because Charlie was in the room, and I basically got to kill every single bottle with Charlie till like 4 a.m, which was outstanding because you see what Charlie and Alex, why they pick whiskies that are so big, because at the time they were smoking like lums. And it was like, oh my gosh, I've not seen anyone smoke like this before. And it was just great times in the castle there. But because we had that collection, because the likes of Daryl Haldane, Mitch Bishard were our reps, they were phoning us up to do these trips. Like Craggamore, still to this day, the best tour I've ever had. The guy that's a distillery manager at that time when we were there is now the head of making whiskey at White Mackay now. Shane Healy, amazing Irish guy, but Shane showed us through Craggamore. There was like a Lagavulin 30 drank that day. They had the full selection of the rare malts. My friends at Lochnagar have never held back on the drams that have come out of there for me, and still great distillery up there. And all these opportunities just to drink the silliest of whiskey when I didn't even really know what whiskey properly was, And then there's like Warehouse Time with David Stewart. There is, all these occasions. Glenglassaugh wasn't bad because you could knock out like 400 years of whiskey in an afternoon with a friend. And it was like, we could probably still do another 400 on top of this again because of the old stocks that were lying around. So I've been very lucky. And that sounds really snobby and like a bit like, oh, I've drank a lot of old whiskey, but I've been so fortunate that you classify these things. And I would even put like a Balvenie Ton 1401, a couple of the batches in this world of greatness where I don't want to speak to you. Like it could be at a presentation, and sometimes I would have to show respect to the whiskey and go, right, guys, I'm just going to leave the room because I don't want to talk about this whiskey just now. I want to spend some times just having a wee nose and getting to know this bit of greatness myself. And yeah, good whiskey is just, if you're great, you know it. Like you go like this and you go, oh, wow. And then you go, oh God, I can't glug this. I can't just take a glug of my lager just now. I'm going to spend a bit of time with it. And then once I'm a drinker. So quick chuck down always of some whiskey and then straight back into it. And when you know it's good, it's like, and I kind of go simple now. I think I've got about 5 ways of looking at whiskey. Oh my God, that is an absolute unicorn. Get away from me because I need to spend some time with this whiskey myself. I don't want to hear your views on it. This is good. Then you've got, above average. which is what's above average? Like old school Lagavulin Distillers edition from '93. Some of the original Connoisseur's Choice bottling, like no, not original Connoisseur's Choice, but like when Connoisseur's Choice bottlings have been really good, those kind of stuff, like things that are accessible in market that you can trash a bottle with good friends and you don't feel bad about. And then you've got that's perfectly acceptable whiskey for me not to even think what I'm doing. I've got a pint of Tennent's or Guinness in my hand and I can throw it back and I do not care what that is. And that's still good whiskey in my eyes. And then it goes to, yeah, and then, like, just keep that thing away. Like, or, like, you nose it and you go, I don't even need to drink that. I'm okay. But these five levels. 1 and 2 are the ones I told at the end. They don't get touched. 3, 4, and 5 are generally good whiskey.
I know, like, I do wish I'd spent more time, like, I don't know the best way of doing it, but like, I've obviously not tried as much old whiskey as you, but I've been lucky to try some nice older bottlings, particularly of like our brands. But like, I know I liked it at the time, but I just can't remember. I just wish I had like some way of like dipping back into that and like retasting my memory, like licking my brain. If I could lick my brain and like retaste that memory. But then I guess it's the moment you remember as well, as much as the actual flavor of the whiskey.
It's always a moment. It's always the moment. Like for me, whiskey is about people, the connections, how it's made, and again from Malmaison in Aberdeen, the stories that came into with individual bottles. That was what made me fall in love with whiskey. The stories that people said, "Oh my God, I've not seen that bottle since," and there was these amazing stories. But as simple as, oh my God, we were 17 camping in the middle of nowhere in the Highlands. Someone pulled out whiskey. We were all drunk. And it's, fond memories of best friends, like Goonies kind of goings on, but with whiskey. And you're like, oh, that's so cool. But and every other story. And you get to, I'm jealous of these geeks that can remember everything. Because I'm like, I almost don't want to have that photographic memory of the whiskey. Like, I actually kind of like basically like not remembering like it in every single sense. Like, I've had some whiskeys that I've used to love when I was in Malmaison when I was 21 years old, and they were like they were great, so special in so many ways. Like that 7-year-old Glengarry, that used to be one of my favorites. I think I tried one after and I was like, it doesn't have this weird pop that it had. It used to have this weird pop that I remembered that you drink it, it would stop. And then out of nowhere, you got, boom, a little whack of like its flavor profile. And when I had it somewhere, I was like, oh, this is flat. This isn't this journey I remember when I was 21. Because your palate changes. Like my palate's definitely gone all over the place, and changes on what mood I'm in. So like, remember the good, like remember it for being good and know why it's good, but don't worry about tasting notes on stuff. I like people that do it. I think it's cute. Well, not cute, but like cool. I can't do that because I can't read my own writing. But it's leave these moments to themselves. Maybe you don't need to remember them fully. What's wrong? Yeah. No bad story has ever been fully truthful, has it?
No, you're probably right. That's probably a really good point, actually. Let's focus less on remembering what it tastes like and focus more on, the moment, what you were doing. Because, a couple of the best whiskies I've had have actually just been at, like, events or meeting people that, in the industry, and somebody taking out a good bottle because of that. So, I know I do get that. I should just point out, Dave Fackerson, yes, well done for spotting that 1 hour, 15 minutes. Well done you for keeping time as well. This is for some reason, I seem to take my hair down every single week and I don't notice I'm doing it until Dave points it out for me. So thank you very much, Dave. Hair is down. So James is saying...
James Gardner as well. So
James, saying goodbye to you.
Yeah, James, I had the privilege of taking my job after I left Singapore, and then has traveled India. I think he's in Dubai at the moment. Ping me a message, James, if you're still listening. But I will quite happily take you to golf karaoke the next time you're in Aberdeen, James. No problem.
Count me in for that, but I'm doing golf. So you guys can go goth, and I'll bring the gloves, and I'll do golf. That's awesome. So I guess with meeting people in your role, a lot of your friends and colleagues are still be kind of based globally. So I guess like catching up must be few and far between. Or do you still manage to get out and about to the countries that you used to frequent quite a bit? I know you went back out to LA not that long ago or recently.
Yeah, I had a nice whirl back at the start of the year. Oh gosh, now we're in a different year. At the start of last year, back to LA, which was fun for a casual week while my friend was finishing. But not as much as I'd like. But that was a good thing about living in Speyside. They came to me. The reason I rented an expensive 2-bedroom, well, not expensive, but more expensive than I needed 2-bedroom house was for the world, basically popping in, just like, oh, well, you're at the distillery, you better stay up with me for a couple of days. And I get to be tour guide and just chill with like friends up in basically the middle of nowhere, which was great. And, because you do usually see them in silly cities. So, yeah, that was good. Aberdeen in this poxy little 1-bedroom flat might be a little bit harder at the moment for people, but yeah.
Just top and tail. There's no shame. Top and tail, you'll be fine. Bundle up.
I'd rather pay for a room in the Dutch Mill for them than put them through that misery of me. I'd be kicking them in the face. You awful.
So there must be some. We haven't got to the tip of the iceberg of the good brand ambassador stories, and I was hoping that some of your old mates would start dropping in some stories that you'd be like, oh no, don't tell them that. So we're just going to ask you. I have to ask you out and out. What is your proper Neil's feet after a 12-hour shift? So somebody's not keen on sharing topping and tailing with you. So you'd have to keep your socks on.
It'd have to be a fresh pair of socks. Jeez, I'd be hanging.
Walk into the bloody washing machine themselves. So what's your stories? So what's your big brand ambassador stories? Everyone's got a good one about waking up in a hotel room and finding a, I don't know, collie dog, or losing your shoes and finding them on I don't know, a donkey. I don't know. I've never been a brand ambassador. You're going to have to help me out. I'm just living vicariously through you. Or maybe I've dreamt these things. I don't know.
There's just so many silly kind of, just nights out that, I kind of have to save them for my book more than anything, for chapters, really. Because they're beautiful stories, but and really funny, kind of random as hell nights where there's a load that you'll be in the moment, and people will get this 2 bottles deep of whiskey in, which is as a good friend of mine who's not a good friend, is he? But he's a friend that did a similar couple of roles to me, and when I left Asia, he was like, so Neil, 2 bottles, no problems. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, functioning, still getting into the office in Singapore at 8:30 in the morning, 2 bottles, yeah? And I was like, yeah, pretty much, so there's a lot of stories once you get from the 1 bottle stage to the 2 bottle stage of the night. But let's just, I don't know. Jeez. I'm trying to think. Midget boxing in Manila is always quite fun. Until you have to batter one of them, then they jump you. But then
wait, that's a half story. You cannot just drop that in. What? So you got in a fight with them, or it's a sport and you're allowed to participate?
One of the things. Are we past the watershed to go on to midget boxing in Manila yet? No, we've
well, I think so. I'm not sure you're allowed to use the term midget, but yeah, you know what? You're all balls in. Go for it.
Well, I must admit, again, my Scottish tongue might have let me down in America, this could be an opportunity for it to do so. However, to those people that I've named wrongly, I do apologize. I'm just not I'm just too.
Don't-
I'm just not. No, that's a bad. I'm just not with the correct ways of talking because I basically live in Aberdeen now, so it's really hard to remember what's correct to say.
Don't worry, I
However,
said that I name dropped herpes last week, so like in for a penny, in for a pound, go for it.
However, the bar is called Ringside. I believe it's in Metro Manila, and after a lovely tasting in Makati or Fort BGB, when you were getting taken out by the locals, they would like to stitch you up and take you to Ringside, which was basically getting a brand ambassador that isn't from there battered by a load of individuals that who knows what we want to call them to be safe, but it's even getting worse. So yeah, things like that are quite funny, but then just the situations you find yourself in, like that you just don't know where the night is gone, that like just drags, I suppose probably one of my personal favorite stories that, like, if my mother is listening, I don't know if she's listening, I presume she's not listening, but
Hi, Mum.
definitely not, Mom. But like my favorite story was getting in the process of doing the Glenfiddich 50 launches in Singapore. I was told that I had to go to a breakfast networking meeting to go and speak to certain people, but I had to go and do a William Grant and Sons presentation 6 months into the job. That was like, right, Neil, you need to go and meet these people. We're too busy at the event that you're hosting and drinking whiskey at every night. So you need to go to this breakfast meeting. And I was told, speak to Etihad, Porsche, and the private yacht guy. The first people that to come up to me was a head of marketing for Porsche, Asia Pacific. And he was like, Neil, I'm Carlinsbeck. Here's my card. We're doing an event next week at Sepang, which is the Malaysian F1 track. I need you there. And you're really fun. And like, we think that we can have you at the dinner. That opened a door for me to be racing Porsches for like 4 years around Sepang on private roads and like islands in the middle of Malaysia. And the people that used to come to Porsche events, you're talking about Sultan of Brunei level friends that are coming that don't drink in Brunei.
You drove them, but you were driving these Porsches.
Oh yeah. It was amazing. Like, because they were like, Neil, you're quite sound, and I was like, well, the only reason I'm coming up is to get a shot in a 911 Turbo S. They took a GT3 over for the Vietnamese car show, and they just told everyone, don't crash it. They're like, on you go, Neil. Pop in with like the driver, and all the professional drivers knew me. One of the professional drivers that take everyone out was spent 20 years in Glasgow. So he goes to me deadpan right at the start, didn't even meet him properly at this point. He goes, oh, you're from Aberdeen, you sheep-shagging bastard. Where's your Velcro gloves? And I looked at him and I was like, processed that thought quickly. And I was like, why was I ever using my Wildies to put their front feet into? Ultimate grip in any position you want. Velcro gloves for shagging a sheep. Oh, this boy knows his stuff. And he was some Malaysian guy that worked for the Porsche Academy that was a Rangers fan because he'd lived in Glasgow. Stories like that and the nights of that kind of fun is, there's some stories there.
It's a small world though, like when you start speaking to people. A colleague of mine said earlier, somebody had come into the distillery, and through conversation it turns out, so on the chat it's very well common that I would say I used to live there. So just chatting to somebody, and like this person was like, I've never met them before, they lived somewhere completely, I can't remember where they came from, but just from chatting it turned out we had this common connection through somewhere I used to live and somewhere they'd holidayed and a person we'd met. Like, it's mad, the more you speak to people, like the more you end up like finding people that you know. But also, why does everyone think that folk from Aberdeenshire are sheep shaggers? Like, we're predominantly cattle up here. Like, the sheep market's on its arse. I mean, like, if you're looking for some entertainment, you're going to have to go cow or pig.
I know you're West Coast, but you've nae seen Ronnie Dooney's Blackies up in Crathaven. You've nae seen him, because if you seen those tupsmen, you'd be in a boot and you'd be like, right, I kind of can't fit he's saying.
Well, I do love a blackie. Blackies are my favourite type of sheep. So, like, you know, I've got a soft spot for a blackie tup. I'm not sure I would ride it, but I've definitely got a soft spot for a blackie.
Well, yeah. Well, I suppose it doesn't work so well for your bits, but, you know, on the men, you know, yeah. What else are we going to do in the northeast of Scotland? Right. Oh my God, Mike, bring this
Mike.
back in. Go back. We're gone farming. We're gone ahen.
You've just turned up at the perfect moment there. We've gone, I don't know what rabbit hole we've gone down. But thank God you dragged us back.
Yeah, the great thing about the Blether is I could be literally jumping into anything just now.
While you are getting to chat with each other, I'm going to go and turn the heating off because I'm a grippy bugger and the kids are ignoring my messages to go and turn it off. So I'll be back in 2 seconds.
How we doing, Neil? You well?
You know, just terrific. Thank you. Just ready for a really highbrow whiskey question from you to drain this blether back in.
I don't think I've got the ability to do that. I've been on the phone to a mortgage advisor for 3 hours.
I heard that, Neil. Actually, my chat's super highbrow. I totally heard that.
Yeah, but I've been taking you in I've been lowering the tone.
That surprises me, Neil. That doesn't sound like you at all.
No, never.
I think the last time we had a dram together was on Senang Beach.
You know, I think I might have seen you. Oh no, I've seen you at Whiskey Talks.
We seen you at Whisky Talks, but I don't think we had a dram together.
Oh no, it would have been down at the beach. Yeah. Good. It tastes real good down there, doesn't it?
It does. It's it's the one place I've been to that really resonates that sense of place, doesn't it? Where you can taste the whiskey in the sea air, and you can taste the sea air in the whiskey. It just brings it all together.
Yeah, I kind of have always been of the thought process that that's kind of bollocks and made up whiskey chat, but down there it was it just tastes better, and when you're involved at the distillery and that's where you have your piece every day, mate, it's you get it, you know.
What bottle did you go for your piece?
No, well, usually for my piece, I was trying to get a Coke down me or something, or a juicy down me, because I probably had too much whiskey earlier on, so it wasn't necessary.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at some of the chat here. It's all dwarfs and animal sex. What? What did I walk into? What have I jumped into?
Yeah, and I think, you know, for our American listeners, and especially who's up in Northern California. Sorry, I'm scrolling back to find you. I do apologize, but you know, a blackie is a type of sheep that has a black face on it, incredibly hardy. They were put into the Highlands to work the land, basically, but to survive the mountain hills. And they'd be put on to take ticks off for the shooting land. And, you know, I suppose a joke about them is that even in the snow, you can still find them because they're not all just white like a normal sheep. Or well, not a normal sheep, that's a bit unfair. But you can still find them with their face. So that's why they're very handy, but they're absolute buggers to farm. So they're quite wild beasts, blackies, aren't they? Oh, sorry, blackface sheep.
Are we still talking about blackies?
Well, we had to go back into some of the comments and explain what the hell we were talking about to some of the more international listeners.
Oh my God. I've just seen the comment. Blackface sheep is blackface sheep we've been speaking about. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you know, that was us just getting too cat, you know, getting away from ourselves. That's why Mike's here to rein us in.
Scottish blackface sheep. Yes, that's exactly what we're speaking about. But they are actually really, really good quality. Yeah, they're so hardy. Once that lamb's a root, they're straight up.
Oh,
hardy sheep. If you're needing a hand with lambing this year, Neil, give me a shout. I miss it. Anyway, Mike,
is it like riding a bike? Is it, Kat?
We're not equating sheep and riding in the conversation again, but but I've got very small hands, so I'm actually a very competent lammer. I'm actually very, very good at lambing. So, but blackies never need a hand. It's always your continentals that need a hand. Too fat.
Really?
Blackies never need a hand lambing. Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
Just get them out. No bother.
Well, it's because they've been overbred. Well, some of your British ones, though, Suffolks as well, like the Texels, like the heads are too big, so they just get. Why are we talking about this? But yeah, the blackies are better.
Like, it starts to make the sheep finding website up in Inverurie a little bit better when you're swiping right or left to which yows that you're wanting.
It's great for
understand a bit more what we're looking at with a keen eye as someone that's been around farms a little bit. A Texel with a big head, no, I'm going to have to step away. But, a little bit of a Suffolk Texel cross where the chin's getting narrowed in a little bit and chiseled. Oh, I'm in about that every time.
Yeah, back end's good, but like Texels are so fucking ugly. Like,
they look like Rottweilers, don't they? I'm feared of them. I'm scared. I'm like, whoa, you calm down, man.
Is that the ones that have got like almost a square head?
Yeah,
they're like woolly pigs. They look like little pigs. Whereas Suffolks are beautiful. They look like Eeyore. They're big, but they've bred them with like these big foreheads. So they're a bit dopey. So you need a hybrid. You need hybrid vigor. So if you put your sort of purebred over something else, then you're going to get like the best of both worlds.
But then again, when we're both like shacked up with our millionaire partners, millionaires, I'm going for those fancy, fluffy Swiss ones with the
Balvenie.
Oh, yeah, all day long because like they look real cozy.
They're very cute, but like I don't know, I've never eaten one, so. And there's no money in wool, so like a bit pointless. You better go for something fat that's going to get you some money in the bank. Are we actually discussing farming? That's awesome.
I don't know what you're discussing now, Kat. You've gone up on your own. We're talking sheep or millionaires.
It's a bit of the both. A bit of the both ones. If I could find a multimillionaire who also has sheep, I'm sorted. And a good whiskey collection, maybe a castle.
Good. Mm-hmm. So
it would be, yeah. Anyway,
so just to let you know,
lambs and drams.
What I've poured is my Tomatin 2008 Portwood. Just a banging dram. This was one that we picked up at the last staff trip when we were over visiting the distillery. I'm surprised I've got a healthy amount left.
We did, and your wife convinced me to buy something that I wouldn't have usually bought, but I was not sober. And I think it was like a rum finish.
Was it the Kubokin? The Kubokin,
yes,
Creation 6, the rum cat.
That's exactly what it was. And at the time, I was like, she's like, just try it, because I don't like rum finishes. Sorry for the whole Caribbean cask. Everyone loves it. I know. I don't understand it. It's not my jam. But Tony's like, just try it. You'll love it. And it was the end of the day. I was having the best time ever. I was like, I love it. I love you all. I'm going to buy it. Take my money. And then I was like, oh, I don't like it.
Have you opened it since and tried it?
Well, I nosed it again, but maybe I just need to pour a glass of it and just let it sit and relive the moment, because we were speaking about how it's more the moment than the whiskey sometimes. Maybe I just need to relive the moment, get back into it.
100%. Yeah, I think Ed did comment there saying he always thinks that any drink tastes better in the place it's made.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. I also think there's certain places, like in a warehouse, that always tends to taste better on the beach or something if it's a coastal dram.
That's because when you're getting a dram in a warehouse, you shouldn't be getting a dram in a warehouse.
Yeah, it's that kind of.
It's like this is.
It's like when you're a kid and your granny's gave you a chocolate bar, you're not allowed chocolate. It's tastes awesome.
It's the best, isn't it? How good is it dramming in a warehouse? Like, definitely the best experiences is just getting downright pissed in a warehouse with someone. And having that freedom, like the best.
You have to have someone there.
Well, I've never really been working for a company that's allowed that to ever happen. But in some of the invites in the early days, my God, there was some fantastic piss ups in warehouses. Like like after you've gone through the process and just going through casks, nothing better, is there?
Yeah. I was on the Springbank School 2017, and they were getting one of the afternoons was a warehouse tasting, and the guy who he was a Mike as well, wasn't there very long, unfortunately, but he got called away halfway through the tasting. He's like, right guys, you've seen me do the bungs, don't touch any with a chalk mark on it. I can't remember what the chalk mark was, but those were private casks. He goes, but have a laugh, enjoy it, any cask apart from these chalked ones. And off we went. 2 hours we were there, wandering around, rambling with Springbank casks and Cadenhead casks. It was awesome.
Yeah, well, yeah, that does sound like a vet. But I think, someone like, you work in the industry. When I've been in those kind of situations, and nothing is quite as good as that sounding. So that had been like, whoa, calm down. Don't take the piss.
Yeah.
You're a guest, you're this. And I remember, and that's why I love Craggamore, because, and this is how nonsense Craggamore was. When Shane took us around, they're the home of Old Par Superior, which is a phenomenal Lux blend. Which
you
is
only
really,
do see the miniatures now. Every collection of miniatures we see has got an Old Par in it.
well, you need to get yourself down to Venezuela and Colombia because that's their market for it. It doesn't really sell anywhere else. But because it's a home of there, and this dates the time, we got in and he's done an amazing tour. And literally we see this wall of all the old rare malt selections, but all these Diageo unicorns. His pager goes off and he goes, sorry, boys. The boys in the still room need me. I need to just run off. Help yourself to whatever you want. And the three of us were looking at each other. There's a Frenchie, an Austrian, and me. And we're like, we wouldn't touch any of these ourselves. There's not one bottle in here that I'm really comfortable opening without, a supervisor watching me do this, because this doesn't even feel right. He'd been very hospitable before, and everyone's like, okay, well, we better kind of take something because he's Irish and he's expecting us to have a dram. And oh, okay. And I took a Lagavulin 30 that day. I have never again to this day seen a Lagavulin 30 in any bar or any of these random whiskey collections I've been around. I've never even seen one. And for me that day not to be taking the piss by pulling out a Lagavulin 30 first says a lot about what else was on that back wall. There was like, in nowadays terms, a lot of Brora, a lot of Rosebank. There was a lot of interesting stuff in there. And it was like, I better just pour myself a Lagavulin 30 because that doesn't seem too crazy. I still to this day never even seen one anywhere. So yeah, that was a joy.
It's mad. I love the link with Cragganmore and Ballandalach.
Mm-hmm.
There was a land, but I think the distillery was, or Cragganmore was built on the distillery on the ground owned by the McPherson Grants or Grant McPhersons.
Oh, whatever he wants to call himself the next time you see him.
Yeah. And
time to time.
We did the Ballandalach tour, and they were telling us the story about how they were setting up the Ballandalach distillery, or what we're going to do for a tour because we don't have any whiskey. And Lord Grant McPherson, or Laird Grant McPherson, whatever he's called, said, well, I've got this wonderful selection of Cragganmores that the family have had for years. We can just give them that. And these are like, so our dram tasting was single cask Cragganmores, 27, 29, and 31 years old. And you're like, that's insane. It was so good.
It's such good whiskey. Like you used to do was it the limited edition distillery release, or it was kind of like a bit of consistency with, I think, a 32-year-old Cragmore for some years.
Right.
Oh, me, what a beautiful drammy that was. And as someone that doesn't like port finished whiskey, and port pipes generally kind of annoy me most of the time on whiskey, the Cragmore Distillers edition. Oh, me. What a lovely whiskey that used to be. I haven't had one for a wee while, but it's, oh, what a lovely whiskey that used to be.
So, Mike, what Facebook page do you run?
Oh, the Port Cask Appreciation Society, yeah.
Oh, do you?
Love a Port Cask whiskey.
That's
exactly what I want.
I'm a weirdo on that front because, you know, when this is probably the only time I'm ever going to say this, and it'll probably never happen again. My former colleague, David Charles Stewart, his proudest achievement was the Balvenie 21-year-old Portwood.
Yeah.
You know, and there's just something about port cask whiskey other than on the Benriach 12. Other than the Benriach 12, which I think is just really fun whiskey, like a Balvenie 12 double wood, and just party whiskey, like just to trash with your friends, and it goes down and you're so happy and it's great whiskey. Other than that, I don't really buzz about port casks ever in anything I ever drink, whiskey-wise.
I was going to ask you what you thought of the Balvenie port, because that was the first one I spent more than a tenner a dram on in a bar. It was cask bar. It was £14 in it.
And, you know, it is basically the crowd favorite. Like, why would I come at David Stewart? Why would I come at all the masses of people that talk to me about Balvenie over the years? Oh, that's Balvenie 21 Portwood. The only problem was in the UK, we all got like hoodwinked because we were drinking some like watered down piss. Whereas like in Asia, America, and I think travel retail, it was at 47.1%. No, 47.9% ABV. And it was like different. And the problem with that was David never, this is the best thing about David. And the only thing that would maybe poke at David a little bit would be, why did you drop the 21 Portwood down to, from that ABV down to this? And David would just go, it's just a bit more water in it. It's still the same whiskey. But he would never answer like that. And you would see it and it'd be like, oh, that really grinds him. And this is a man that, you know, doesn't really get annoyed or, and you know, he's, I suppose of an age when I was looking after him and he was traveling around the world, that with jet lag, you saw a grumpy side of him, but not a bad grumpy side. You would just know, okay, he's a bit tired because this is not the beautiful niceness that is David Stewart.
Yeah.
But that would be the one thing. It'd be like, he'd be looking at them and I would be like, oh, I like a higher ABV on my whiskey, kind of, but like if David's saying it, who do I know anything about? So, but yeah, 21 Portwood's best whiskey and the best like espresso martini you can ever drink. Oof. If you want $140 or 120 quid espresso martini in a bar, go in and order a Balvenie 21-year-old Portwood espresso martini. Wow,
Sounds phenomenal. It's so good.
So good. So good.
I know what I'm
There we
doing
go.
after the blood.
Yeah, next is the shop day out, Mike. We'll go and do a espresso martini. I found my bottle that your wife got me to buy. I love you, Tony. But and I love Cabochon, but I just need to make friends with it again. That's what happens, kids, when you buy alcohol while drunk.
What you should do is have like half a dozen tomatins first, and then try it and see if it works the same.
A couple of Strathislas first, and then a Glengarry at the Highlander, and then
I know. I can't believe you went all the way up to the Highlander and had a Glengarry. Have it any day of the week.
I'd never had that one before, and I knew the guy at the bar. He was like, "You're Glengarry girl." I'm like, "I am." So there you go. It was a match made in heaven. But yeah, fab day out. I was going to ask you guys, what did you do for Burns Night? And the guys in the chat as well, because we've literally just had Burns Night last week. So
because that was we missed the Blether last week, didn't we? Because of Burns.
I know, because I was going to open with this and I got completely thrown by the fact that I pressed go live and Little Brown Dog's video started playing, and I panicked and I was like, Mike, help me, why is the video playing? So I was going to
Free
ask if you've been
advertising for our
Burns night.
friend.
I know, yeah, Andrew, if you're watching, like, checks in the post and all that, but what did everybody else do for Burns night?
What did you get up to, Neil?
Oh God, I had a catch up that should have been done a couple of months ago, probably before December, with two gentlemen that I used to run bars with at some point in my life, and their wives, and that's why I don't have any whiskey in the house, because everything that was kind of like, oh gosh, oh that's probably getting oxidized, or oh gosh, they'll like that, I took up. We had a load of champagne, and then I got back from Bankery quite happy, generally speaking, but like quite late. We had a proper kind of let's drink whiskey night. Was my Burns night. There was not much poetry.
No.
Did you have any haggis? More to the point.
Yes, yeah. We'd haggis pakuras. I think that was about as far as we went.
So this is it. My feedback from this year, everyone said, yeah, Burns night was great, but hardly anybody ate haggis, because a lot of people had Balmoral chicken and a lot of people had haggis, like,
sorry, Kat.
reconstructed.
2 seconds. 2 seconds.
On you go. But a lot of people had like haggis reconstructed, or like Balmoral chicken, but like nobody really had a big pile of haggis, a big pile of neeps, and a big pile of tatties. Did you have the classic haggis, neeps, and tatties?
I had haggis, neeps, and tatties on Wednesday.
What day was Burns night? Right?
Burns night was a Saturday night. I had it on Wednesday, and then I had it for my lunch on the Thursday, the leftovers.
Nice.
So I was hosting a tasting in Aberdeen on Thursday night for a company's burn supper. They asked me to come along and do a post-meal dram event. And then Burns night itself, I spent at the Marcliffe Hotel in Aberdeen as a guest on Gordon McPhail's table, which was
lovely.
phenomenal.
So I did know this, but I was just giving you an inroads to talk about it. So there you go. You're right. You're welcome.
Oh,
That sounds awesome.
It was so much fun. But no, I did not have haggis. And it wasn't even haggis as a make. So for those who don't know, I'm celiac, so I'm gluten free. So I have to get haggis specially made for me. So when I put my dietary requirement in, I ended up with a really nice tomato soup. It was a beef, pulled beef with gravy, and there was tatties, there was neeps, there was no haggis, and everyone got that meal. The haggis was in the starter. It was haggis soup that everyone else got. So they did have haggis. They just didn't have the traditional. Yeah, it was haggis soup.
Like liquid haggis.
Kind of. No, I had haggis like stirred through it. Just yeah. I'd never seen it before. It looked quite bizarre, but yeah.
I've never had a haggis soup before.
No.
But you know what? I kind of incorporate haggis into my life. So like I don't
like as
really...
a like as a sort of life metaphor. I like
Life is haggis.
No, but I find myself generally having haggis at least probably once a week.
Once a week for haggis. Check, you live in your best single life. You can't put a battery in your smoke alarm, but you have haggis once a week. All right, Mr. Money.
But like,
I was going to mention the smoke alarm, but I expected that to have already been done.
Yeah, I had to apologize, and like I would consider maybe taking it to somewhere else in this absolute bachelor pad midden that I live in. But like the white wall with like my butcher's apron behind it, it's about as good as it's getting in here at the moment. So we're gonna have to put up with that, and hopefully hasn't dragged the numbers down. But yeah, haggis, like, see if you've got a busy day, like a busy day that you need to be, like if I'm going up to the farm or whatever, I'm having a haggis and bacon roll. I'm having a slice of haggis guaranteed in it. But if I commit and buy some haggis and then halloumi toasty, money. Haggis to like throw into any stew, but I quite like veggie haggis. So I've probably got more veggie haggis in the house than I would have like normal slices of haggis. Because the veggie haggis is like quite fine, and I don't know, I've got no complaints about it. So you throw it into a stew as a thickening agent, oh, fine, man. Loads of use for it. And Ian Bruce, dinna forget a mince. Well, no, you can forget the mints because, like, I'm not, mince and tatties maybe once a year when I'm up at the farm, but like, give me haggis every day.
You do get people who love a spoon of mince over their haggis.
I have never heard this before. What?
Have you not? Yeah,
No.
yeah, it's quite popular in kind of Aberdeenshire. I'm sure it's an Aberdeenshire thing.
I mean,
Haggis, neeps, and tatties in a spoon. It's just the gravy. Because normally
I
it's
don't think I'm fully acclimatized to the Aberdeenshire palate yet. Then,
yeah, just had it. So it's your haggis, neeps, and tatties, and then a spoon of mince. Because the gravy kind of moistens the haggis a wee bit. It's sometimes in either or. It's mostly an either or. It's like, do you want mince or haggis? Because people have that impression of haggis still being basically the guts of everything and then boiled in a sheep's stomach. But,
that's exactly what it is, with a bit of oatmeal.
That's exactly what it is.
That is news to me. That I've learned something. I've also just learned recently that people like to make stovies out of mince, which I didn't know was a thing.
That's not stovies. That's like that's not stovies. No.
Well, I know, because I literally had stovies tonight, and I'm in the best mood ever because you know how much I love stovies. It's literally the best thing you can put inside yourself. Well, one of the best things.
Wow, let's get a drama.
One of the best things you can eat. One of the best things you can eat. But what mince stovies?
That's going on a t-shirt. That is.
I'm looking forward to that t-shirt. I'm in for that. Let's buy that t-shirt, Mike.
One of the best things you can consume that you can eat.
Again,
anyway,
you're digging a hole for yourself, Shush Quine. We appreciate that you like a stovey, but we'll leave it there.
I love stovies. I love stovies. Also, on Ian's point, Skirly. I love Skirly. So love underrated. Skirly. I would put Skirly. Oh, I love Skirly. So for people who are not from Aberdeenshire, this chat is like a foreign language. We've done mince and tatties, neeps, Skirly.
Blackies.
Like blackies. This is AFA Aberdeenshire.
Well, I do like there's a couple of people mentioning the haggis and cheese toasties. I love a haggis and cheese toastie.
With like that fancy squeaky Greek cheese. Oh, me.
Oh yeah, halloumi.
I'm going to be always happy about like the cheddar that got us through world wars and everything, and cheddar is king on most cheese kind of conversations I'm ever going to have. But halloumi with haggis, oh me, it's just brilliant.
This is all news to me. I feel like I haven't experimented with haggis enough. Like I've never put cheese with my haggis. Like I think I need to broaden my haggis horizons.
Only in a toastie.
No. Oh, no. You could put them in Chinese dumplings. I'm quite into that. So like, haggis zilong bao with like a soupy kind of gravy around it. Absolute money. Fry off little cubes of haggis for like a twist on the classic, like scallops and black pudding dish. Still works.
That would be nice.
Let's be honest. Haggis pakora, man. Oh, nifty.
Well, somebody mentioned haggis pakoras further up in the chat. Yeah, I mean, like maybe we're just not. So I went to Six by Nico for a Burns night, and they fairly experimented with the whole like classic Burns night thing. So maybe like we're just stuck in a sort of 3-tier box, the haggis, neeps, and the tatties. Maybe we just need to like deconstruct that a little bit and just play around with it, because it sounds like this year nobody really went for the classic big three.
The year of the haggis.
Forget the year of the snake or whatever we're on. It's the year of the haggis. That's it.
Year of the snake's important. It's an important one, guys.
Is it actually year of the snake? Because I made that up. Is it actually the year of the snake?
If we're going a bit more particular, it's the year of the wood snake, which has got a lot of interesting connotations for a lot of people watching. And for our friends over in Asia or anyone that is celebrating Chinese New Year, oh my God, I've just murdered that. Oh well, let's not wish everyone in Mandarin speaking
Happy New Year. We'll just say Happy New Chinese Year.
Let's just go Happy New Year. But haggis Scotland said, let's get out of that. But yeah, big year. big year this year, year of the snake.
Love it. So
Yeah.
the years are to do with like birth years though, because like from when you were born, you're like the year of the animal, like the snake, the pig. What's that about? Is this like
No,
a
that's
Western misconception?
massive. You're just in like Western world thinking there, which was my miscommunication to all, because if I'd gone that way, I'd have been a rat, not that interesting. Like I was like,
Clever.
well, there's some benefits to rats, but then when I did a little bit more deep dive into Chinese New Year and being over there for it each year, I realized that, oh, wait, I'm not a year of rat, I'm a tiger. It's more appropriate,
I mean, that is a bit more exciting than rat, to be fair.
I'm a pig, if that. Going by our Western adoption of it. So what is the actual?
When's your birthday, Mike? Is it early on in the year?
It's September.
Oh, depending on what time. Oh no, September. You're screwed. You're on the normal calendar. But I'm in January. Chinese. I have to think about my years there. My months of the year. But depending on how the lunar cycle is going, Chinese New Year changes, and there's quite a dramatic difference. It'd be about a month, probably like 5-6 weeks play on when Chinese New Year might be within the year. Like it was super early the first year that was there. So
wait, how do you know? So is it to do with your year of birth? Like, how do you know what you are then? How do you know you're a pig or a rat?
Yeah, you just work out the date and the lunar cycle. So a lot more advanced cultures than us lot over here work their calendars on like lunar cycles and what changes, and that's about as much as I'm going to be able to talk about on it. But so their calendar isn't the boring old calendar that we look at. They've got a bit more of a fun one, basically. And it's a little bit different. Like it's still the same year cycle, but it's not the Gregorian. I'm starting to sound really horrible now. The Gregorian calendar? The one that we work off of is different to other parts of the world. So.
Oh, so I'm an ox.
You're an ox.
And there's no bad things or good things about each. Like there's benefits, there's traits. Yeah. You'll see some traits in yourself that will be written in that. And you're like, I get that. That's me.
I'm hardworking, patient, and reliable, and I would say I'm all of those things. So I agree with that. I can also carry heavy things. So I'm quite beefy.
Like your hair.
So there you go.
and big hair. There we go.
Great in soup.
Big hair and goes great in soup. Yeah, that's going to be my new Tinder profile. Big hair.
Only our tail's good in the soup, though. Come on.
That's true. Only my tail can be used in soup. There you go. That's interesting. I feel like it's been an educational Blether tonight. I love it. So Neil is looking to try and beat Fraser's Blether.
I noticed Fraser was on. I don't know if he's still on, but hello, Fraser, if you are still watching.
I
don't know if we had that. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure if we had that Fraser, but we've got Neil's friend Fraser who's been on, but maybe the other Fraser's been on too.
No, Fraser loops. Come on, you must have seen his profiles of like him guitaring away. If that's not Fraser, with what he was saying, there he goes.
Is it the same Fraser?
It's the same one, yeah.
Sorry.
YouTube, obviously.
Sorry, I'm thinking
Fraser's YouTube channel where he drums away on his guitar.
I mean, I've got kids. I'm not allowed to do YouTube. Like, apparently, it just makes me like old if I look at YouTube. So, like,
you're on YouTube right now, Kat. You can do YouTube.
Yeah, but I don't watch me back. That's weird. Have you heard the shit that comes out of me weekly? I can't watch back. Like, oh my God, I censor myself. Like, absolute shit that comes out of my face is ridiculous. Yeah, sorry, Fraser, you are the same one. I'm really sorry about that. I can't see your picture. It's so small. And I haven't got my glasses on, so I'm very sorry about it. Are you just hanging around to see if he beats your time? Because, like, I like a challenge, and I can speak shit all night, so I feel like we might...
Yeah, I'll give you a cotton wager that me and Fraser sat just so we beat it, so he doesn't have that in his like ups on me. So yeah. I'll give you half of what we bet. I'll give you 100 quid, Cat. Mike, I'll give you like the other 100 actually.
Do you know what? There's not much I wouldn't do for 100 quid, so I'll take that a bet, to be honest. Are you glad you joined in, Mike? After your mortgage chat.
I know, and this has cheered me up immensely. That was a brutal kind of 2.5 hour conversation. Yeah.
It's very grown up. Very, very grown up. I mean, Neil can't even put a battery in his smoke detector, and you're talking mortgages, I think.
Someone that is vertically challenged, if you saw how high the ceilings were in here and the lack of ladder that I have, you'd perfectly understand that.
Do you know what? I do get it. I've got T-Rex arms, but do you know what? Like, get some friends. We'll come around. We'll sit on your shoulders. We will fix this. We will fix your problem.
And also to the gentleman that owns this property, the only reason I haven't gone back up to turn it off was the last time I tried to get the battery out, I ripped the thing out of the roof pretty much, and I still haven't fixed that properly. So that's, again, I'm a bit too scared to touch the thing. I mean, you get used to it.
So how long has that been going?
Oh my gosh, easy early December. Easily.
How can you? Oh no, how can you sleep through that? That's insane. Like, it'll drive you mad.
I've been in a bar for like November and December. I didn't even hear it peeping, and then when I got home, I was unconscious very quickly because I was tired. So it was fine. It was not a problem. But we should maybe start timing it to. We missed it. If we can stop the bleep.
I think you are the first. I do believe you might be the only person we've had on who's got a fire smoke alarm beeping throughout the whole Blether. So well done you for that. You can put that in your CV because Fraser wants to take off.
Comments have been like, tell that prick to go and sort his fire extinguisher out, which should have been probably the first thing I'd done after 5 minutes. Well, maybe 10 minutes, but yeah.
I mean, it hasn't come through yet, but you never know. Maybe nobody's noticed because the chat has been so good. I don't know what that was. Was that you, Mike?
Yeah, that was Killian's monitor beeping at me because it's running out of battery too.
Oh, for the love of fuck, people, just buy a packet of AA.
It's just a plug-in charger. I just need to plug it in. It's fine.
I buy batteries in multiple packs. It's so much cheaper, and you need them for all sorts of things. So just buy batteries, guys. Or buy rechargeable batteries. It's gonna save you in the long run. I'm gonna
jump back to Sandro Pizzorla.
You said shout earlier.
Okay. He is on the Glengarry 15 sherry cask.
I saw that.
7%. Is that the Oloroso cask? It was.
It is. It's the old travel retail expression that people absolutely love and ask me for all the time.
Mm.
So apparently, you can't get it in the UK just now, but apparently in Europe it's still readily available, especially in Germany. So it is still out there, but we haven't got it at the distillery just now. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much get asked about it through emails nearly every single week, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, it's insane how often I'm asked about it, and I do wish we still had it, but who knows? Who knows what may happen? But yeah, a lot of people, it's their favorite. Is your smoke?
If I see a bottle next week, should I buy one?
Yes.
100%.
Are you saying it's that good?
I mean, so it's not my favorite one, but it's certainly everybody else's favorite one. So yeah, definitely get yourself a bottle.
How sherried are we talking? Like too much, like too sherried? Like
so I can't answer that.
Balanced sherry.
I'm not a sherry head, so I can't answer that. But Mike can answer.
Yeah, it was a good old fashioned vintage style. It's just got that kind of nutty, dry sherry. It's not, Oloroso cask. I can't remember if it's full sherry or I think it was fully sherry cask, wasn't it? Yeah. But I mean, even to look at it, it wasn't intense color wise. You're not looking at that kind of overly oaked
Oh, so it's like a nice, tired, old refill sherry, but that just ages whiskey perfectly after 15 years. You can still taste the distillate, not like the rubbish that's overwooded and looks like treacle that people get excited about nowadays.
It's only in there for a couple of months to give it some colour and get sold as a sherry bomb.
Glengarry would not do that to you guys. So no, 100% not. But it it was a beautiful dram. But yeah, I think when I first started, we were coming to the end of it then. So, and then I think we must have sold out about 5 years ago. Do you need to go and do something baby related?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Tony just creeped into the room. She's tiptoeing around, and I'm like,
Are you still?
We're still
Tony, don't be a
yeah, we're still.
I can't help it. It's in my blood.
Come and say hello. Where's your face? She's not going to do it.
Come on.
Come and say hello. I know you want to.
Yeah, oh, it's a bit of a shit heap in here just now. There she is.
Hello. Hello.
I literally sat down and music started playing behind me. I was like,
You sat in a train, that's why.
Well, your husband left me in charge of starting the Blether, and last week's video started playing. So, like, yeah.
so you nailed it, really.
They totally nailed it. Yeah, totally nailed it.
Did you win your darts?
We did. We won 6-4. We had the home derby tonight, so it was a big game.
Oh, congratulations. Well done. Darts is something else I don't know anything about, so I'm not going to go any further into that conversation. I know it involves throwing sharp things at the wall.
I thought you'd be quite into that.
I mean, I tried golf chat earlier and I think I did all right. Got a bit lost.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that and see how your golf chat goes.
Please don't. Because Neil didn't help at all. He just left me floundering completely. So, yeah.
What I'll do is I'll pop up to see you before the next golf thing and, like, give you a little bit of etiquette chat on ways and means and what happens on a golf course. It won't take too long. It won't be a problem, but you'll see. You will see by my demeanor how everything changes once I get onto that first tee, and you'll be like, oh, this is a different Neil. And then I'll talk you through the do's and don'ts very quickly.
Yeah. I need the terminology because I was struggling with the words. I like golf. I totally get the word. Everything else, not so much. So once I've got the terminology, I think I could wing it. Like, I'll be good.
I'm pretty sure you hit it with a bat. Is that not right?
Either bat or racket. I'm not too sure. It's one of the two.
Do you know where the term golf comes from?
No.
Yeah. So when the clubs were first formed, it was a men's club. So the women weren't allowed. So golf actually stands for gentlemen only, ladies forbidden.
Is that true? They should have changed that by now. Is that true?
Well, they let ladies in now. There are still some golf courses. Was it most recently, wasn't it? There was a golf course in Scotland refused the Open because it's still stuck by those rules.
Well, Muirfield, yes. And also, while I was traveling, I couldn't vote on this. But yeah, Royal Aberdeen lost the Scottish Open because of basically because of that. Well, didn't lose it. We should have never really probably had it in the first place, but we could have had it the next year. And Royal Aberdeen was, until 5-6 years ago, a gentleman's only establishment. And yeah.
Nonsense. Yeah. I mean, like, Fraser said I've even killed the golf chat, so I could have been there. But did you say is it?
Is it? Yeah. Like we don't have anything now. Like you guys have got the girls. You guys have got girl guides. We don't even have Boy Scouts anymore. You know.
Do you know what? Once you force a small human out of a very small hole, you can have whatever the fuck you like. All right.
But the only problem with all this is I can't join women's clubs.
Yeah.
There's one thing that is like, hey, I must admit, I appreciate more than anyone the sanctity of like women should have their own spaces, definitely away from women pig-headed, horrible men. However, I should also say my granny taught me how to play golf. So like, let's put this into consideration. But like on the grand scheme of things, what is wrong with a men's only club? Like, what's wrong with it? What is wrong with it?
Okay.
Because there's plenty of women's only clubs, but you can't have a men's only club anymore. Well, apart from like the Masonic Lodge, but then you've got the Blue Star, which women can join. So like you've got kind of everything.
Which is a women's only club, because they're still not joining the Masonic side of things. So like, it's not that you're joining the.
Yeah, so like I don't know, like sorry, I wasn't meaning it in a derogatory. Like I'm more than delighted that there is and women members at Royal Aberdeen and all these kind of things, but like, why is there not like men only clubs anymore? Like, why is
I win this argument.
I see your point. After like, men having like sort of monopoly over women for like centuries, I do see why you'd want your own special club.
But we should still have a little bit somewhere for ourselves.
Very eloquently put, Kat. But yeah, I'm going to sit on the fence here. And Fraser's got his popcorn out. I can see that already.
Well, is that what that emoji is?
Let's give Fraser something for that. But like, yeah, like think how much like when we look at the marketing of like golf karaoke and all the club ramming and how that looks on social media, that we can pair off the sexes together. I don't know. I think it's like an interesting thing.
It is. I do feel like golf karaoke is still in its infancy, because we have only just invented that tonight. And also, Mike, in the Blether Book of Rogue Promises, we now have a new one. It's golf karaoke, because I misheard something that Neil was talking to somebody about and thought, wow, new concept.
Golf karaoke. Not yet.
But yeah. On the point of chat, Scott has pointed out the most non-whiskey blether ever. I would like to point out it's only diverged in the last 45 minutes. It was very whiskey related up to the point of sheep shagging, and it has gone downhill. But we're definitely still on brand for whiskey, 100%.
Yeah, let's wind it back. Let's go highbrow whiskey conversation. I'm ready.
Let's go high. I know. I've asked you a lot of questions about your time as Whisky Ambassador, so I do feel like I managed to steer it in an almost professional manner for most of the time, until like my brain just lost sight of things and decided to create a new game. But
again, it was my rubbish that was leading everyone astray, basically. But
it's been a good chat, to be honest. Like most weeks, it does diverge into something more than whiskey.
The great thing is Scott is still here watching, so it hasn't put him off.
That's true, actually. I think he wants a game of golf karaoke, which
How about why does not Scott pull out like a good whiskey question for all three of us to ask, and then we get to see how different our views are on all of these things? Like that's always a fun one.
There you go, Scott. Ask us a whiskey question. What are you thinking of one, Neil? What did you just pour in your glass there?
Oh, I've been trying to save this for absolutely ages. This was like a special occasion whiskey because I've had it for about 7 years, and this is an Adelphi Selection Burnside.
Oh, nice.
This is really the only Balvenie that I've got in the house that I can show, really. I touched earlier, I don't even know if you joined by that point, but as a young man, Adelphi Selection invited me over to their castle for their wee gathering, it used to be called, where you do the tasting notes for their winter bottlings. So I adore Adelphi Selection bottlings. And when I walked into a whiskey store with the Balvenie company credit card and saw this, I was like, holy shit. We've got Charlie McLean and Alex Bruce's pick on a Balvenie that isn't Balvenie, but it's 18 years old and it's that price. Have it. I'm going to use that in a tasting at some point. It never made a tasting, and it stayed here with me. And I've been waiting for a special occasion to drink it with. And I was looking, going, it'd be really wide that I don't drink a Balvenie tonight, because Balvenie's why I'm sitting here, basically. So,
yeah.
So your special occasion. That's awesome.
And with you two, like, why the hell not? Like, you're quite special people, and like, it's just annoying I can't be like cheers to you just now, because we're not close, but like not close enough to be cheersing.
Raise a glass anyway. Cheers to your Burnside.
Cheers.
So Burnside is one of these funky, fun, kind of made up names for a whiskey that is apparently teaspoon, but never sees a spoon hover over it in its life, I would imagine. Because there's quite that kind of little culture within the Grants, isn't there? This Yardhead's Glenmorangie, isn't it? It's Yardhead is Glenfiddich, isn't it?
Let's go back. Funky and silly. No.
I didn't say funky and silly. I said made up.
Oh, made up. So there's nothing made up. This is how much a brand, this is how much a brand stamp I have, but like, truly, why, when you look at whiskey companies, and the two that I've worked for, Brown-Forman and William Grant and Sons, that have different sources of income coming in, whether it's money and their traditional brands that they love, or it's family money doing something that they own and that started off their business. And when you look at like every single element of what William Grant and Sons, if you want to take a deep dive into it, every single part of it's thought out, and it's never left the family since 1887. Insane how that family looks about going about their business, what they're putting down stock-wise, the developments that they do. When you have an American whiskey company that has no idea about Scotch whiskey, we see what's happened to Brown-Forman. But like, that had to be a cause, because they cut 25% of their workforce. They lost their cooperage, which how many years did they champion that on? Yeah. That is business pressures, because America has absolutely tanked. Scotch whiskey's never been about that. Scotch whiskey, if you look at it in its purest form and how people buy and pass on and sell distilleries, it's about legacy. It's about what stocks were laid down in these years. And yeah, there's deals out there when the whiskey industry tanks. But that purest form of what William Grant and Sons is something very, very different. And people should really take a look at that and take how serious their whiskey is. So it's War Hill and Burnside. There are the two teaspoon Glenfiddichs and Balvenies. Now, when William Grant was under pressure for water rights for the Fiddick back in the day, the Balvenie estate that was right next to it and what basically falls into the site now was up for sale. And the only reason he bought Balvenie House, or what was known as depending on where you're looking at, New Balvenie Castle or the mansion, it had the water rights to the Colvin Hill. Well, a lot of what's on the Colvin Hills. So you're going to talk about Robbie Dew Spring all the time with the Fiddick. Great. That's one spring. But on the Colvin Hills, which the Balvenie Mains farm run, but then the two farms, as you're going down to Craigellachie and Aberlour, the next two are Burnside and War Hill. And that's why they named the teaspooned products off of them. But they had to buy them because at another time in their history, they had to protect the water rights of their business, because there was all these crafty bastards trying to put pressure on them. That's why they had to buy Balvenie Farm and the Mains of Balvenie. That's why they had to buy those two farms below to protect those water rights. And that's why the two whiskies are named after that, basically. So, like, once you know the history, everything will have been said from a family member that knew the site so well, and there was a little bit of charming part of site from them growing up or something that they'd be like, right, we'll name it that, or this should be named this. And there is so many elements into the thought process of what they do because they've been there and they've learned from, like, the oldest lady that lived in Europe at the time, Janet Sheed Roberts. 110 years of history she passed on to her family. You don't get that from any other distillery, do you?
No,
No way.
no, it's pretty,
Okay,
it's
that's
pretty
cool.
cool.
Can I ask a very basic question? So, you know, like when teaspoons like whiskies have been released and they have these, like, you know, kind of Easter egg names, is it the distilleries that dictate these names then? Going by your story there, Neil?
Yeah, so
And,
it's
like,
so
or is
what,
it like,
yeah, so what you're doing in so you know what you're doing in teaspooning, and if you look back a little bit in history, and even still when I started in Balvenie, when I went up to Old Pulteney for the first time, the last thing they were doing for Christmas was producing 10,000 litres for White Mackay for the blend. Maybe not for White Mackay itself, the blend, but something in White Mackay's portfolio. And really, until not so long ago, the whole business was quite simply, you're making whiskey on an industrial scale. That's why something like a 63.5% alcohol cask filling strength is an industry standard. More so because it was a perfect ABV for aging your spirit in. But what it meant was it was a commodities transfer that I might need 10,000 litres of that type of spirit for my blend. You might have 10,000 litres of that spirit for my blend. So let's do swapsies at 63.5%. Maybe it's aged in your warehouses. The wholesaling and moving of this liquid, that is a whole level that I've never been once involved in the whiskey industry. But you're moving casks for blenders. And it was only recently people appreciated the value of the brand. And in early brand days, like Balvenie didn't exist in 1987 what was it? When was first Balvenie? Sorry, it was like 1974. 1978. I'm going to say. I've forgotten all that boring stuff. But once it got better, you protected the name. So when you were exchanging it or selling it for someone else, you did not want to lose your name. You did not want to lose what your brand was. And the Balvenie or whoever you were working for was the liquid is one thing, but the brand name that is associated with the liquid is more powerful. So that's why independent bottlers that can produce amazing liquid from distilleries, they don't care about that brand name. So it was a protection basically for your brand. You teaspooned it, so nobody on a third-party market could go, well, I've got, in the early 70s, Balvenie Glenlivet, or you've got Balvenie. No, you can't call it that because that's not what the liquid is. And there will be a glug. There'll be it won't be someone pouncing around with a teaspoon because Aberdeen's hands are too shaky up in space for that. But it's just a wee glug in and so yeah, that's it. It's to protect your brand, but it allows you to get bargain basement 18-year-old Balvenie that is never in David or Kelsey's mind about how that whiskey should taste.
Yeah.
Like Balvenie in particular, nothing more has a taste of Balvenie. Clean as you like, because it was only one person that made it the whole time. It was David Stewart, and it's honey, vanilla, and delicate fruits. You get that in a 12, you get that in a 56, you get it in, I've never drank in 60, but you get it in everything that has the Balvenie name on it, because you're not building just the unicorns that have some of the best tasting whiskey, by the way. Balvenie will never release because it's not Balvenie. If anyone tried the DCS compendiums, the 25 casts to celebrate David Stewart's life, they were so far, some of them were so far away from Balvenie, but it was celebrating David's working life of special times and random casts. That liquid is not released because it dilutes the brand messaging of delicate honey and vanilla whiskey that's like easily palatable. Like this Burnside is like an absolute firebomb. It's just about as wild as a Cavalan that I was drinking at the start. That's why it's not released as Balvenie, because Balvenie isn't a fiery beast of a thing when it's going down. So to answer your question, going back, is to protect the brand, essentially, Kat. To protect that name that is your distillery in every single way.
Yeah,
in my and from what I can tell.
I get the idea behind these brand names because obviously, as you said, David hasn't rubber stamped that as a Balvenie, and there's a lot of them have, you know, the worst kept secrets in the world. These ones that name people know that that's from Balvenie Distillery or Glenfiddich or Glenmorangie or Dalrymple, they also be whatever it is. It's easy to find them out, and it's, you know, it's like the SMWS just having the numbers, isn't it? It's just like, we can't call it this, but if you download the chart, you can find out what it is. You know, it's a way of opening up new brands or new whiskies to guys who maybe haven't tried a Balvenie before, but they love it.
No, so honestly, I would kind of disagree with that, on the basis that the individuals that have to research what Burnside is, what all these random, like, supposedly teaspooned whiskies are that they're getting, don't care. Like the things in like all the Tesco's and all that, and your Costco single malt that a friend makes, that a chap that I know quite well makes for them, but what he doesn't make, he just buys, and it's the same liquid he's bought for 10 years, but it's Kirkland malt.
Yeah.
You don't need to safeguard, like, there's no thought, there's not one single person at William Grant and Sons who would have a job where it was like, how do we make this monetary? There's not one person. So having, like, you know, because obviously, like the story with Ailsa Bay is it's Balvenie stills, the condensers are different, but it was to take the pressure off of like Balvenie spirit for blending so they can make that style of spirit before. So your Ailsa Bay, and whether or not they've changed the condensers, Ailsa Bay is one of the most technologically advanced distilleries at the time when it was built. So there was all these elements, kind of like Roseisle, that they could be tweaking distillate on. So they might have been going through different batches and named it, and there was a need to sell it to market. But like, it was sold as that, and it went to someone. There was no, I would doubt very, very much that there was any thought on like, well, let's call this and let's call this that, because it's not going to open up any Balvenie market for you. If anything, it's going to cheapen your brand as Balvenie, because if I'm drinking this Burnside and I pass this to someone that has never drank whiskey, they're gonna be like, everything that you've ever heard about people, I don't drink whiskey. This is the reason why. It's fiery, it's woody as hell, it's all this. So it's not going to help the Balvenie brand. And I'm using Balvenie because it's the one I know most about. But you're protecting that brand.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I mean by, you know, the brand haven't okayed that. So an independent, Adelphi are putting their name on it, Balvenie's not. So Adelphi are saying, we're happy that this is a great bottle of whiskey, regardless of where it's from, and we want to put our name on it. And it's, like you say, it's so different to a off-the-shelf Balvenie that Balvenie don't want their name on it. And, you know, Highland Park do the same, Glenfarclas, all these guys. Normally, there is a quite obvious difference. It's certainly with Glenfarclas, I think, is if it's a bourbon cask, you can't call it Glenfarclas because that's so far away from what Glenfarclas release, you know, because everything they do is sherry. I completely understand why they do it. But it's a great way for people to discover new whiskey and try it.
Yeah, and I think it's probably something that as a whiskey industry, we've missed out on the flex of doing that. Some of the earliest marketing of all time has been with the whiskey industry, you know, Johnny Walker and John Walker and Sons and Changing the Man and all these like kind of old school connotations of like things that you see that you don't really think about has been done in the whiskey industry. And I think maybe we've missed something there, that you had to keep it simple. You know, the late 80s when there was loads of whiskey floating around, that's when age statement starts to matter. You know, people were saying older is better, there was this, because there was so much whiskey, they had to make up something. You know, there's things that even that, like when I worked with Glenfiddich or even like Glendronach, what they're saying to the customer is just marketing lies. But when you deep dive into the history of like actually what was happening, someone in a marketing team 30, 40, 50, 60 maybe years ago cooked some number and that became what people thought was fact. And it was a lie. But because most of the marketeers or the brand managers that run these businesses have come from soaps, they have no idea. They don't care about double checking these facts. But when you get into the crux, when like you get up to a night in Huntley, you start hearing all the goings on, you know, back in the day in Forgman, you heard this, and like, oh, and you start hearing these stories, and you're like, okay, well, that's not what I've been told. But there's all these deep dives, you know, like, yeah, it's mental, isn't it? You know, like, and it's just because we've been, I think, as a whiskey industry, too open with so much of what we've taught people, and people trust us. Like, and I use an example always of during a tasting, you've always got some prick Dave, and poor Dave, sorry Dave's out there, but you got some.
I did notice that Dave Parkinson has gone to bed now, so we're
at least 2 on the chat tonight.
No, but Dave's it could be anyone. Let's call him a Fraser.
Fraser,
renowned. But some prick that all of his mates think that he knows. And like it's same with wine, it's same with these things, that the group of individuals around him goes, oh, my friend knows his whiskey. He told me this. Da-da-da. And you're like, is he sitting here tonight? Because let's just talk about the most fundamental basics of chemistry here and go. And then they just go, oh yeah, shit, what sounds really stupid. But they've told their mates all this shit, and you can just plow them for 2 hours when you're hosting a dinner and be like, this idiot goes, oh, scotch? I don't drink scotch. It's peaty. Shut the fuck up. Drink Balvenie. It's honey and vanilla. Get it down you. You're going to love it. It's better than all your bourbons.
What's your favorite whiskey myth to debunk if you're doing a tasting?
Water. Until I started chilling with Stuart Buchanan, you know, Stuart gives it like loads of like licks on like terroir and water and all this rubbish. I'm not. Water is a concept I struggle with massively.
You mean like adding water to it?
Oh no. You know, I think water
or the source of where the water comes from.
Professional tasting sense. Water is really important if we're judging on a whiskey panel or something. But how water makes a difference to the distillery's character and the end game, you know. And I think I came from an age where growing up, you would hear, you know, if you ask the distillery manager, you know, if it makes your whiskey so good. And the distillery manager's retort would be, it's a water. It's a water. And there was no kind of understanding or anything. Like, I know distilleries got closed because of like high lime content, so the cooling systems weren't working. That's why like Parkmore closed behind the Fiddick, because there's a lime stone quarry behind there. There's too much lime, and they could never keep anything clean for it. But then, you know, you go up to Glasseye, you talk to Stuart at Ben Riach, and he's just like, oh, the water, this. And you're like, but is it? Because we're going through these processes and all that, I struggle still with everything that I've heard from certainly the Brown Foreman side and water, but then doing your GCD, and which is a really interesting way of looking at whiskey and other technical papers on what minerality is coming through and how much of that is lost in fermentation, how much of that is lost in distillation. Like, what of these elements these metal elements are coming out of the water that we can see in this stream? How does that affect what's going on? Certainly fermentation, but then distillation. Like, what is that reacting with in the coppers? And it's all kind of things that are so minute when you put in a cask on top of it.
Yeah.
And as soon as you put a cask on top of any of your distillation goings on, which has always been a struggle with like Waterford Irish whiskey for me, of individual farms and terroir, that if your fermentation's this, and because of like the air pressure, temperature in the room and whatever the hell's going on when you're doing that, you get consistent spirit at the end because you're tweaking everything on your spirit safes. So you're reaching these certain numbers to make sure you're having a consistent product. And then you put it into something that, depending on who you speak to, is 70 to 80% of the flavor of the glass, like the liquid that's in the glass. How the hell can water really be that big?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's like the fact that it's making a big influence, but it's the science. You can't escape the science. Like, your cut points and your distillation, your fermentation times, 100%. That's where a lot of your flavors coming in. But the fact that we're all so uniquely different, surely like the small, minute details of terroir, whether that's water, whether it's like heritage malt over floor maltons over commercial malt, like these little wee intricacies do gradually build up the different layers that gradually kind of filter out to give you the bigger picture before the cask, like into the new make spirit.
Well,
I think a lot bit, of these potentially.
Yeah. A lot of these books are measured, and they are. I mean, you have a tour of Royal Lochnagar, for example, and that is set up to produce a really meaty, heavy Macallan-esque style spirit, but they tweak everything to produce a really light spirit. They get a lot of reflux in the stills.
One type of cask.
Sorry?
Yeah, and they only put it in one type of cask. So they only consistently put it in one type of cask, don't they, at Lochnagar? Like, they do a refill sherry, so everything they do is to suit that one type of cask.
Yeah.
Or most of what they produce.
But the setup is the same with something like Altmore. Altmore has great big tall stills, but they fire it really heavy to get a meteor spirit instead of a light kind of space ice spirit. So I think the process and how they do things is more important than the materials they have to do it with, as in the raw materials, the water and the barley.
And I fully agree with that on that sense. But
because if you took the water from the glass of Burn and put it into Benriach, you would produce Benriach spirit. You wouldn't produce Glenglassaugh through Benriach still.
That would be something I would agree with you on, essentially. But because I spent so much time with the fantastic Stuart Buchanan, I would like to think that some of the wonders that he talks about is true on how that is. But
Glass is probably the wrong example because it's the one that really think it has that whole thing going on.
Only because Benriach was like by far the best juice, like of the three that I worked for in my eyes. And there was one day some idiot, Mitch Bouchard, was like, "Oh yeah, we're doing a water tour of places. Oh Neil, Benriach's on, so you're doing it." So I had to host a water tour in Spirit of Speyside, which is really rubbish at Benriach because for being there on site, because we've got a cooling pond, you can look at the water, but it's borrowed from Longmorn. It's the same water source at Longmorn than it is at Benriach. And the water tastes real good, by the way. Straight out of it, it's real good for a hangover after the opening dinner of the Spirit of Speyside, which I do apologise to anyone that was on that 45 minutes of me talking water out of Benriach because it was rubbish. But drinking it was insane. Like it was really nice water, and don't get me wrong, it made my teeth a little bit fluffy. Like it had a high mineral content to it, And generally speaking, when I found the tap that was from the water source, I would sneak down there. I would just pour water for myself because it was like better than the tap water that was coming out of Elgin. So I was like, this is sweet. But Kat mentioned so many elements of, what your signal was breaking up a little bit, but you named so many elements of that piecework that makes a whiskey so good in a traditional sense. I think people that have first-class biochemistry degrees that run big plants and stuff disagree with some of that.
They're boring.
And I would stay on your side of efficiencies of that these people have done have probably made the product not quite as good as it might have been back in the day, but then there was a hell of a lot of inconsistencies. And it was the inconsistencies that would slip you up. So they protect your brand a bit. But, the stuff we get to drink nowadays, like the great stuff, the unicorns that are still out there, the good casks that were saved, they had to go through a lot, And there was, if you look at why the hell was Glengarry for 2 years in the early 70s so good?
Longer than 2 years, but okay, well, that's like...
Yeah, but when we're talking about unicorns of distilleries and special years for each distillery, they're two that stand out. But what the hell happened? It could have been a stillman that was on the night shift, had a particular alcohol problem, or he had a love of roasting his tatties in the fire below it for his dinner on the night. So there might have been this skip of like something going on in the distillation process that at a key point, either the guy was roasting his tatties under the fire, maybe ran over a duck on the way to the distillery, so he was roasting it under the fire, or he'd lost his matches for his fuggy, so he had to go in, and there was something that made that distillate special, and linking it into a cask that was so good at that time, which good casks were so hard to, getting good quality wood in those days wasn't the science that it is now. Good quality wood is good now, but it's not old wood like we were used to in the old days. So yeah, all these elements, there's just like thousands and thousands of elements that made old whiskey good at the time,
Yeah,
I think
you look at things like the Chinkapin cask, which is, up until very recently, it was just American oak. It was, you wonder how many great casks that were single casks or seen as a unicorn was because of that it's Chinkapin. It wasn't maybe a unicorn, it was just because it's so different. And nowadays we know about it, so it's not a standout kind of American oak. It's Chinkapin. And when you put a name on it, do you not think you kind of lose that kind of romance of that special kind of, do we know too much? And do people know too much now? It's like, oh, well, this is why that's different.
So I think on that point, though, and your point of inconsistencies, I think we are at a point of consistency now, which is for quality control is fantastic. But your unicorn kind of 70s whiskies were born from inconsistencies because it was direct firing where you can't keep a consistent heat, where nearly every mash should be slightly different. Yeah, where where grain wasn't grown in the same commodities that it is today, where there wasn't as uniform as in today. So I think a lot of the 70s whiskey is sought after so much because of that level of inconsistency and that kind of big clash of kind of like ingredients coming together. So and you see people coming back to that. People are going back to direct firing. Okay, they're doing it in a more consistent way, but they're still trying to recapture that sort of big, heavy kind of old school notes. So I think a lot of those old bottlings, a lot of that is romance, and a lot of that romance is tied up in terroir, and a lot of that is tied up in things like water, heritage grain, heritage malt. If that's psychological, cool, but it's still playing into what we enjoy in the glass. So I don't know. I think there's merit to both sides of the argument, to be honest.
Mm.
And
yeah, there is.
Oh yeah, very much so. But I think it's because of the progression of the whiskey industry and because of how big it is. So if you think that early bottlings in the early 60s, So Fiddick was 61 when it was first internationally marketed. And then you're going to see some early bottlings then. And then you go into some interesting Italian bottlings and what those were. Like with like Sam Rollet, but like the old world got single malt probably before, just after America did. So these were just small batches. And when you're making, in terms of like talking about 9-liter cases, what, 100 for the world of this single malt that it was just going, and that was making your, instead of taking it to like 1.3 million liters of this fraud, 1.3 million 9-liter cases like Fiddick does or the Livet does, then it starts to get harder. But I just love it. Like I love how history has revolved around whiskey for so long, and there's so many elements that like just changes bits and pieces, you know.
Do you think something like, when we're talking terroir, we're talking this, you mentioned Waterford there. The fact that my kind of thing about Waterford is as soon as it went to a cask, they almost negated anything that happened before that, because they can blend the whiskey and the cask style to suit the difference. I always think that what should have happened was when you bought a Sheestown or a Ballymorgan, you got a wee vial of the new make pre-cask, and that was what you could judge the difference on and make for yourself. Because as soon as that goes in a cask, it is matured for 3 years. You're negating any of that because the blender can influence that so much.
Oh, I completely agree. Like, other than the fact that one of the best things I think I ever heard from David Stewart was, after I'd asked him about how particular he was on his sherry cask, I said, David, you got bourbon casks that are all very different. And he goes, Balvenie after 12 years in American oak bourbon cask, it's all the same.
Yeah.
What? You're so particular on other elements, but just bourbon casks, not a difference.
Really?
And you know, I did the same with water. When I went to Dublin Whiskey Live, I went straight up to the Waterford counter and I had to say to them, I was like, Luke, I'm an app. I don't believe in any of your chat. I like it. I think everything else about your whiskey is quite good, but like, talk to me. Tell me why these 9 whiskeys I'm away to taste. I did all 9 are worth noticing terroir difference on. And there was nothing, absolutely nothing, until you got into the Cuvée. And I thought the Cuvée was one of the most balanced, beautiful whiskeys. The rest was like, how the hell are any of the notes I'm picking up just now related to that farm? Tell me. And you have to sell that to me, because I'm not seeing great differences on similarities on, you know, years or all the cast similarities you were presenting to me. They're not there.
Yeah. I guess a part of it, from me looking at it, when you scan that QR code, you go onto the website and they give you so much information and you think, all right, okay, so it is different. And I think because every bit of information is different, I think they overwhelmed you with so much. They went super geeky, which is great. But at the end of the day, you're looking at it and thinking, you know, if you step back and you think, well, what is that actually adding or taking away to the whiskey? What is that putting into the bottle?
I would say
I quite like the whiskey to drink. I thought each one had its merit. And yeah, they were different. But where did that difference come from?
Yeah, and never in my eyes from a grain or sugar from fermentation, really. There were similarities, but it was like, if you were going to change it, you'd have to go harder on it, on that front. But oh gosh, I was hoping to be muted for that next one. But I think that if you're stating all these things, provenance is really important. Like for me, and going certainly into the Balvenie world, that I met wood makers that built boxes for their 50s. Wow, what has just happened? Yeah, well, what I can't believe my laptop's on do not disturb mode at this time of night. But if you're going into that, That's important for me. I love all that information, but don't tell me it's got anything to do with flavor. Like, I don't care if like Eric over the farm has got a field looking onto the east of this. It's gonna, you're not, I just don't see the differences that you can possibly ever get. Like wine is terroir driven. It's 100%
Yeah,
terroir. Whiskey, I wish it was. I wish we could go more particular on that, but everything I've ever been taught, everything I've ever learned, everything I've ever tasted, in my eyes, doesn't tell me that that's the case. You know, so I wish there was that level of romanticism about it, these things. I just disagree massively on it.
Yeah.
Hey,
You are never going to find a millionaire lady with that lack of romance, Neil Strachan. That's all I'm saying. Like, you're going to up your terroir romance.
See, with all this super geeky whiskey chat, that's what you. This is why golf was invented.
You know I'm about the terroir, and I already put my argument in. So, like, I'm going to bring it down to base level. Plus, I keep getting distracted by a teenager. So, but yeah, I don't know. I like the
You should do
romance
what
terroir.
Neil's done it, just sellotape him to the roof and ignore his noise.
Is that what the beeping is?
well, I tried to get the battery out, and then I ripped the whole thing out the bloody roof, and I was like, well, I don't know how to fix this, and I'm still not any closer to getting the battery out, so I'll just leave it for a bit. And other than on this podcast, it's fine. You know, it doesn't really bother me too much.
It's actually louder than it was before, but yeah, it's cool. It's adding an ambiance. It's adding a terroir romance to the whole chat.
Well, that's because we're in the danger zone now. Like, people are asleep, so it probably does go louder at this time of night. But
yeah, so I think you've broken the record. I think Fraser was the record at, what did you say it was at the start of the chat? 2 hours, what?
40 something minutes. If he's still on, Fraser, I knew I was going to nail this. It did help. Like had issues before, so.
Do you know what? It wasn't a fair playing field, actually, because you started halfway through, more than halfway through. So this is like a whole new chat. I don't even know how I'm still upright. So, like, yeah.
Nice.
We're
Okay, well.
we have to review this. But you're definitely up there for, like, we should have a prize. Mike, we should have a prize for, like.
So we should get a prize for listening to you.
Oh my God. I'll get you a sticker. Neil, I did promise you a sticker. So, like, I will get you.
We've got t-shirts coming. The only thing I want is a hat. So we'll get a sticker, t-shirt, and a hat, and then I win everything. And then
I'm scouring for somebody who will do this kind of hat with a Blether logo on it. It's all bloody baseball caps and shit. So,
yes,
I can't wear that. I can't. I
feel bad for Scott because we asked him to ask us a whiskey question, and he kind of did, and then we just went off onto Balvenie and Waterford.
No,
I mean, it's a very loose whiskey question, and it's very directed at you, Neil. Are you selling any whiskey from new Northern Irish distilleries at your bar?
No, other than Bushmills, everything's been a little bit tricky to get hold of Northern Ireland wise. And to be quite honest with you, I can't even think of one. I've been too much based down in the south recently with all like with all the proper right. Oh God.
Ooh.
So again, when I moved to America, there was a lot of things I learned about Ireland, and I should also say that I worked for a long time with a head chef that had the red fists of Ulster on his arm, and that skewed my knowledge of Ireland for quite some time.
Oh, you've been caught out. Everyone's noticed that in the chat. You have been caught out well and truly.
There we go. However, but Bushmills is outstanding. Bushmills, what, the oldest like licensed distillery in the world.
Yeah, 1600, 1608, 1608.
Yeah, ancient. Their juice is good. You know, I wish someone in Bushmills would speak to me ever. In fact, any of the Irish whiskey companies, I wish someone would speak to me because I would love to like spearhead a load of Irish whiskey. but nobody. Well, funnily enough, Irish whiskey struggles to sell in Scotland because we actually make way better whiskey than the Irish. But what I think is that what you get with Irish whiskey is a whiskey that, like, I've got Middleton Very Rare on the bar for £22.
Mm-hmm.
Middleton 22 Rare, at £22, a Middleton Very Rare 2024, was it? Is, in my knowledge of whiskey, £100 a shot whiskey over a bar. That's how good it is. Pot still whiskey, something that we don't do in Scotland, gives people that like a sherry bomb value. Like, you go all the spots, pretty much all the redbreasts, unless you're
Redbreast is phenomenal. Redbreast is my standout Irish whiskey. I think it's phenomenal.
It's phenomenal, but what you get with the distillate coming off of that is a level of like weightiness and mouthfeel that you get from good sherry cask whiskey that is different from it being an oily distillate. Like, I look at their distillate's notes similar to the end product of a sherry cask note, that I'm getting. Just I talk about flavor slightly differently and a bit weird and not so traditionally, but like, the balance and the weight of what I get flavor wise reminds me of some sherry cask whiskeys. And I know the whiskey, some of it hasn't even seen sherry cask, and you get it and you're like, oh, this pot still whiskey's different. And it's, yeah, I like it. Like, I think it gives you a banging sore head more than anything. Pot still whiskey has to be why I had such a sore head on so many Paddy's days. But when you look at Redbreast and, like, you know, a 27 Redbreast, holy shit, that's good whiskey. Like, that's a whiskey I don't want to be in a room with people in. Like, stop, I'm walking out this room. But, you know, the Middleton Very Rare stuff, my God. I think for £22, if you're going into a normal bar, you should be getting charged £80 for that 25 mils of whiskey, because I think it's that good. So there's real value in Irish whiskey because it hasn't been marketed to hell well enough yet to command higher prices. But yeah, your spots.
So there you go. Everyone has to come to O'Malley's in Aberdeen and come and try Irish whiskey. That's what it is.
Or just go to Ireland, because there's a lot more of it over there, and it's
I was giving you a plug, but okay.
I was also trying to be hating on the idiots that don't give us all the Irish whiskey that we want over here, you know. Yeah.
Go to Ireland as well. Awesome country. I think I was 18 when I went out.
You used to live there, didn't you?
I haven't actually. Do you know, this made me giggle earlier because we've got this, you've seen it, Mike, a million times. We've got this really old school map at the distillery. It's really out of date. And I was showing my colleague how it's out of date because it only shows you, like, I don't know, like 3 whiskey regions or something on it. It's just a really old map.
But there are only 3 whiskey regions, Kat.
Well, Glengarry and the rest of the world. That's but I was like, I still live.
Regions are marketing, aren't they?
Well, that's it. Like,
marketing and taxation. There's got nothing to do with it.
You've got your 2 obvious ones, the Lowlands and the Highland. That was a taxation, and the rest is market.
Or Lowlands / Glengarry, and then the rest is just politics. But we're looking at this map, and I was like, I used to live there. And I was like, and then she spoke about something else. I'm going on holiday there. I was like, I used to live there. She's like, is there anywhere you've not lived? I was like, this is really weird. That's a conversation we literally had with Mike the other day. But yes, I've been very lucky to live in quite a few different places. But anyway, it's not all about me. I think, have we actually lost all of our viewers to the V pub? What are they called? The V chat? The
V pub.
What? V pub. What does the V stand for?
Virtual.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Also pumping out the chat. So
who's still here? Is Fraser still here? Is he?
I'm going to go back on the comments, and something that's very relevant to the northeast of Scotland is obviously the idiot that posted the picture of some person's bill from the Fife. I hope that he's lost their job. But, You know, Fraser mentioned Balvenie 50 worth $4.5 grand in the Fife.
Yeah.
That's cheap. It's cheap. Don't get me wrong. I can tell every single person on this chat there's better ways to spend $4.5 grand. That's cheap. Is it worth it? But let's be honest, it's cheap. Cheaper than where you can get it in most places in the world. So yeah, I think the guy had a very astute purchase making all those 16 drams for whoever was in the bar drinking Balvenie 50 that night. Very clever.
So wait, was that so the thing that was in the news about the person that had the massive bar bill at the Fife?
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
that it? They just bought like loads of Balvenie?
No, there
It
was
was
only
all Balvenie. There was
There was only
Lagavulin.
16 shots of the Balvenie 50 at that price, but there was some very astute purchases. Mike, you must have analysed the bill. Like there was a lot of like good drinking there. There was a Samaroli Lefroy from the 70s on there. There was some things that I'd never even heard of that I was like, oh shit, I'd quite like to drink that. And it was like quite astute. Like I looked at the whole bill and I was like, well, there was about two things I thought you wasted your money on Auchentoshan.
I was going to say, there was nothing there that was a throw it off. We'll round the night off, just get us. It very much looked like they cherry picked every single dram.
Every single dram. And yeah, for the likes of maybe the 50 Balvenie, it could have been the chap that just went, fuck it, we're drinking well tonight. I'll buy Aberdeen in the bar a dram. Which 16 drams for that, it's fine, like it's all right. It's not a bad price for any of those whiskies. I didn't think. I thought it was a fair bill.
I didn't see the bill. I saw the news article, but I didn't see they like printed out like exactly what they bought. So
I'll ping it over to you. I'll ping it over to you, but it's a good, like I looked at it and I didn't think it was some nugget that was buying whiskey.
How did that get in the news though? Was that just like some really indiscreet barman or woman that's like released this to the press?
It literally, I can't remember the date on it, but I got it real quickly afterwards. But it came from folk from Blether. It came everywhere at me. Random people were like, "You seen this?" I'm like, "Oh, shit!" It didn't take long.
It's a shame though if like the person.
No, they should lose their job for that. They should straight out lose their job for that.
Well, yeah, because like surely that's like quite common, or you'd expect that to be common practice in a bar that if you're promoting your bar to be high end with like really high end drams, your customers' discretion is obviously at the most important thing. So like I was surprised it was released and that the actual list of drams released. Like it seems
it goes to a WhatsApp chat and it goes to the whole world.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
It was really bad form by that person, and I hope they lose their job. Like, because
I've just brought it up on the. I'm not sure if you can see that, but brought it up, and the guy who printed the till off, the receipt off, it's his name's at the top, so it's not as though.
Yeah. Oh my god! Sorry, the barman or / woman has printed off that receipt and then sold that to the press, or like. Or
no. It took probably about 2 weeks before any press got to it.
Yeah, what I imagine is that he'd sent it to his mate and said, "Check out this bill," and that's been sent on and sent on and sent on and sent on as these things do. But yeah,
that's so inappropriate. He should not have done that.
But the till name doesn't really tell the full story ever on your till systems, but like
no, that's true.
But yeah, like it's really bad form on a 5-star property. Like I remember we sold in a Balvenie 50 to Hotel Bel Air. 2 days later, they go, "We need another bottle," and it was like, well, you got the only one that came to California this time. We can't get you another one. And then we did because someone else had one. But like it was, I think, $9.5 a nip in Hotel Bel Air. So even with currency fluctuations, trust me, $4.5 is real cheap for that whiskey per nip. The guy had 3-4 drams out of it, and he went, "I'll take it to my room." And he took the whole bottle, full charge at full whack. The Cleaners found it half empty the next day. Well, maybe not next day, but it was half empty in the room, and that's it gone. And that, in comparison to what that little bill looks like that got posted around, that is absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing on the grand scheme of bills that get passed around these hotels on these rare bottles of whiskey. That this guy was having fun with it, drank it, but just wanted not to be in the bar. So, well, I'll just take it up the road. Well, I'll take it to my room or my suite or the whatever it is out the back of the hotel. And I'll enjoy it with whoever I'm with.
He 100% had a wank in that bottle. Just saying.
So, yeah, well, who knows who that was? You know, who knows who that was? Like, the hotel's never telling us that, but like, they wanted one 3 days after they bought it, and they weren't selling it for less than, well, they weren't selling it that cheap. You know, and
but that's it though. Like, everyone's got different budgets though. So, like, you know, like, so the best lesson I learned starting in the industry was never judge somebody on what they look like when they come through that door, because even if they've got like their boiler suit and their oilskins on, just because they're going straight from work, it doesn't mean that they've got less of an income or means than the person who walks in and gets out of the Porsche, the Jaguar, the whatever.
We have a lovely father and a mother and son couple come into the shop every year. The first time they came in, they were looking for something special, and we kind of guided them. We were talking, you know, we're going through bottle by bottle, kind of what we thought they would like. And they turned around and they said, "Yeah, okay, well that's a collection. Yeah, we'll take one of each," because we were thinking one bottle, and they're like, "Nope, that'll do." And they've come back, and you know, when they first walk in, you're like, "Oh, look at the bless! She's buying him a bottle for his birthday." But no, this was she was buying an investment. She wanted to, you know, and every year they've come back because we were able to mentally say, let's not judge that. Let's just treat them, you know. Yeah. And they come back every year and they buy a wee collection.
And the off premise or off trade is a totally different ball game to what. Like before you set foot into that room, or you know, who knows which like person might have come off his farm or fishing boat or whatever. They might have just made 7 million in what they've sold that day. So like a casual bottle of like, 30, 40 grand whiskey, cute. I don't give a shit what that price is, you know? That's the amazing thing about who comes in. The off-premise, the on-premise, like when you go into hotels that cost, I don't know, and you have to be someone to get in these rooms, and like that money is different. You know, that is...
That's you're talking celebrity level.
No. Celebrities don't have that money. That's like unless you've got a lipstick brand or something that you floated. Celebrities don't have that kind of money. These are different types of money. These are business people that have
fair
silly different types of money. You know, like if you've got 100 million, cute. I'd be quite happy with 100 million in my hipper. But like cute, like that's no money, 100 million. Yeah. Big money that's out there.
That's a monthly income.
For anyone still watching, I'm okay with 100 million. # still single. Just saying.
Do you know what I actually when I looked at the like you Neil, I kind of went through the that receipt. And you know the one thing it glaringly stood out for me, and it's still really annoying. It's right above the Balvenie 50-year-old. Is the Canadian? I think it's a Canadian whiskey, Chicken Cock Prohibition 800. They've spelt Prohibition wrong.
No,
you're paying 800 quid.
Whoa, Phil. Till systems are not the bottles of whiskey. It's not the bottle of whiskey that might have done it wrong. It's whoever's being lazy going, who gives a shit what this Canadian whiskey goes into in the 5? Like it matters if I spell this wrong, because we're in the heart of the Highlands, so no idiot's going to drink this.
But honestly, like spelling's pretty basic. My main question is, Did they buy Glengarry? Because if so,
No.
why not? No,
No.
you said it
No.
so quickly.
No, the closest. Well, okay, they've got one single
bought a
44-year-old Auchentoshan.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's like that's like a standout of
Hmm.
how did you end up there? You went
Well,
with
they had a Lefroy as well.
Well,
yeah,
okay.
but
Like
that's like
started,
Samuel Lefroy in there, though, wasn't there?
they started on a
Master
journey.
distinctions and I like. Well, we're just we can't pick on your boss too much for obvious reasons because I need a job in the whiskey industry, and I really, really like all of Beam Suntory's products massively. Auchentoshan at a certain age needs a little bit of improvement on.
Do you know what? Everyone's entitled to their opinions. So we're going to leave it at that.
Greenwood Auchentoshan, by the way, I think is phenomenal. Absolutely.
Entry level dram, absolutely banging. If you don't like whiskey, Auchentoshan is your pathway into whiskey. So put it in a cocktail. Neil, put it into a cocktail. And we'll just leave it at that. And it's a really cool distillery. I mean, they've got they're in the city. They've got cool stuff. It's a cool place.
You know what's really cool about it? To my knowledge, and I don't know if this is still true, but it is.
I'm sorry, Neil, but I am sold. Kat is just completely sold at him.
It's so good that we're 3 hours and 20 minutes in, so none of the brand team are going to be watching this, so let's come at them. But in all seriousness,
my internet's actually really bad at this point.
in all seriousness, Auchentoshan, the only distillery that I know of that takes a water source from a region that isn't where the distillery comes from. So they take Highland water to a lowland distillery. And the fact that Cat's not even moved, I'm presuming that's a lie now.
There are so many good whiskey brands out there. We are spoilt for choice. So, moving on.
So the water comes from the Clyde. Oh, next day they pump it out from the Clyde.
What?
It's the closest they've got. That shows why whiskey water doesn't matter, doesn't it?
I know,
Rocket
right?
food.
I have no idea what water source Auchentoshan use because I don't work there. I work at Glengarry.
Honestly, I think it's Highlands into Lowland. I think it's still quite an honest source.
Well, we will find out. And if anybody wants to know the answer next week, I will endeavour to find out for you. But Auchentoshan, loads of people love Auchentoshan. Auchent Ale, love it. What's not to love about that? It's such a fun little kind of.
You know what? In its defense, I think it is. It's a fun dram. It's a good, like you say. For me, it sits in that Ben Riach kind of 10-year-old range where it's something that's fun to crack open, pass around, enjoy. And it has its market, and it's affordable. It's I'll tell you what was a phenomenal whiskey that we had, and I think you and Tony picked it up when you were down to Isla. Was the red wine single cask.
Yes.
Was just phenomenal. And they do produce some bangers. For me, the cool range is it's kind of a little bit of a cocktail kind of dram, a wee kind of old fashioned or.
But that's what they kind of play into as well, that they're a good mixing whiskey. Yeah. And a lot of people, so when I was at 6 by Nico for Burns Night, a lot of people, because we did 3 cocktails, 2 whiskies. And a lot of people who booked in for the experience booked in for the fact it was a Burns night. And they're like, I don't like whiskey. But they like the whiskey in cocktails. So a lot of people will get into whiskey through cocktails. And Auchentoshan, that's one of their kind of big USPs. We create a whiskey that goes well into a cocktail. So you do need that market too. So if that's their vibe, then cool. Go for it.
Okay. It doesn't matter. It's obviously good enough to sell enough that it still exists. There's a market out there for it. People drink it. If it's your whiskey of choice, who the hell 100%. Are we to say anything about it? Because it comes back to right at the start of why I love whiskey is listening to people's random stories and you make a bottle of whiskey like no other spirit, no other bottle of wine even touches on this. That a single bottle of whiskey will pull on the heartstrings. It doesn't matter what the hell it is, but if it's special to you and it's not, that's your drammy. And you're drinking
100%.
your customer for, for 60 years potentially. And
Yeah. That's a good way of rounding it all up. Exactly. If it's your dram, then it's not wrong. So I fully agree with that completely.
Oh,
Especially
shit. The hair's going back up now, is it? So
that's when you know you've beaten Fraser, is when you've witnessed the hair coming down and
the hair was up and she's just going back down on me. I'm going to
giving up.
Look, I don't know I'm doing it until people point it out. It's just
I can't believe you can lamb a yow, you can fucking shear a sheep, but you can't put your own hair up.
Okay, I can't shear a sheep.
Open a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah, well, I can't open a bottle of whiskey. We know that live. I can't shear a sheep, but I'm really, really competent at rolling wool. But like, I don't know I'm doing it with the hair. It's just it's a thing. But the hair was going back up. I think it's like a stress thing.
Maybe is that the like sign between you and Mike? The hair goes up and then holy shit, we've just absolutely smashed Fraser by 40 minutes. Fair enough. It maybe wasn't fully official, so we need to run on for another 40 minutes because Mike's now joined. But we
need that. We need that. What is it? When they talk about Stuart's Inquiry, what is that? What sport is that?
Stuart's Inquiry. It's not Stuart's. Like, just get lots of people called Stuart together and say, "Well, is this right?" It's a steward,
what is it then?
Like a steward's inquiry.
That makes much more sense.
Cat. Don't worry about these things. These are problems that we have quite a lot. I have a lot. I had a real issue with the word galley for a long time. So, the English language is hard. It might be misconstrued all the time. Like, don't worry about it. Don't laugh. These things will happen. But I quite like the concept again that we can develop for a Stuart's Inquiry.
I think that is phenomenal. Just about right. Your name's Stuart. We need you to sit in a room and deliberate over this discussion. And
because there's a Stuart that we can sit in the room to be upstanding enough.
I mean, the surname Stuart does come from being stewards. So maybe that's where it came from. Maybe that's where the name Stuart came from. Was because they had a steward's inquiry. They thought, right, you guys can decide. And they're like, oh, we're the stewards, and we'll just call ourselves Stuart. So maybe you've uncovered one of the biggest secrets of surname origins.
Just stop. Please just stop. I can't believe I thought it was a Stuart's Inquiry all this time. Stuart's Inquiry. We need a Stuart's Inquiry.
And to break up like the crying of laughter, my funniest thing that I suppose I've ever done on that front, when I was learning whiskey, Glenmorangie, like this is taken again full circle back. Morangie used to have a whiskey that someone told me was really good, and I got a lot of respect for it still, but the Glenmorangie Saltern finish, which is now known as the Nectar d'Or.
Yeah.
But at 21 or 22 years old, I had no idea what Saltern was, and I thought it was pronounced Salterness. Like, this is how rough and ready this young man was at the time. The general manager obviously had heard some good things about the young whippersnapper Neil behind his bar. Oh, yeah. So he took his mum and dad, who'd owned hotels before, relatively well-versed in old world wine, into the whiskey room with me at a young age. And I had no idea what the hell I was talking about. And I said to them, this Morangie, Salterness finish, da-da-da-da-da. And he looked at me, and his mum and dad looked at me a bit funny. And he looked, and he went, Neil, it's called fucking Saltaire, you fucking. And this is in front of his mum and dad, who I thought were quite well heeled, and then I forgot. Oh wait, you guys are hospitality, and he was like, it's called fucking Saltaire, and I was like, oh, well, yeah, now that rings a bell now. Oh no, and when I say that I told his mum and dad and him that, it could have ran on for 3-4 months, like that nonsense. Like I was Salterness, like presenting this whiskey to people and going, oh, there we go. And yeah, so like these things will happen, when you don't.
Well, thank you for
do
making me
things
feel less
properly.
stupid. I
That
mean,
was
I am
my
getting some,
response.
I'm getting some support. People are talking about the House of Stuart has the final say, which makes sense historically. So I thank you for helping me out, everyone. I genuinely thought it was called the Stuarts Inquiry, but yeah. So far, you are winning as the longest Blether guest under my reign. I don't know if it's different with you and Russell, Mike. If you've had a longer one than this, but
the double barreled one with the two Ians was a 5-hour affair, but
I
was
there.
Yeah,
it was the handover from Russell to me.
That didn't count. That was a special event. That was like a one.
That was COVID. That was COVID for me. Like I'm still 3 hours, I think, short of anywhere close I've been on a screen. Like COVID got real bad.
I'd fallen asleep during tastings and woken up and the guys are still going. So yeah.
It was
which we talked about on. It was with Karen. We had Karen on. Yeah, and you fell asleep during her tasting and then woke up and like a couple hours later and people are still chatting.
We just to let Neil know what levels of professionality I did. Professionalism. I think I called it professionality when we talked to Karen as well. Professionalism. We finished the actual tasting and then we had an after party which everyone was involved in it, and then I fell asleep and woke up. I didn't fall asleep during the actual tasting event.
Well, do you know?
Yeah, the after parties were another thing as well. Like that was when it was no hold barred. Like that was when it got silly. But yeah, it was like when Whiskey Geeks knew that I was stuck in a flat in LA and knowing fine well I was a bachelor of life, and it was just you'd wake up in the morning, and I don't drink at home because my mother and father don't drink. So I generally, other than when I'm on a computer talking to people, I don't touch a drop of alcohol in my house. I can't think of anything at all that no reason for me to pick up a whiskey ever. Mm-hmm. And I'd wake up after these like Zoom tastings going, that was a big night. All you were doing was talking to whiskey clubs around the world that like what happened? And yeah, it was funny times, but it was always Balvenie Sweet Toast of American Oak, Kelsey McKechnie's first whiskey. That was the one that was empty. It was never the 12 double wood. It was never 14. It was Kelsey's first whiskey that would just go down in the COVID days. So get a bottle of Sweet Toast of American Oak down here. Good. Real good.
She's got big shoes to fill, but so far so good.
A lot of the time, the chat goes completely professionally. And me and Mike are like, I think, well, very true, but a lot of the time, like when you're on live, you're very professional all the time. It's like, oh, like whiskey chat, very professional. It's not until afterwards that you're like, well, that was great fun. That was amazing. You did great. And then you just kind of chat for like the next hour, half hour, and you realize you're still talking and you're still drinking whiskey. And it's like 11:30 at night, and you're like drunk. You're like, wait, this wasn't the case. Like an hour and a half ago.
When did we go off? Like that's the worst one. Is like, shit, are we still live?
Yes,
that's the worst one.
We were speaking about this the other day on our works day out. We're like, yes,
just to let you know, we are still live, guys. We are still live.
Thank you.
Well, I'm fully aware. I'm counting down the clock, just thinking, I cannot wait just to say to Fraser when I see him tomorrow or whatever WhatsApp group we're in, I got you, Fraser, but that's all right, cute. We didn't talk. We were talking all elements, and he's gone off now. He's not anymore.
But I think he probably went off at the Stewards Inquiry / Stewards Inquiry, depending on what party you're in, because is debatable. He had me and Mike as a sandwich all night, whereas you had the top slice and then the bottom slice. So like, so and like it's debatable.
Did I not just say that we are still live? And then you just go say that Fraser had a cat and Mike sandwich.
When I'm away to just like get a taxi, and I'm going up north, and I'm going to grab you on the way up to Huntly, and we're going to do that sandwich. It sounds like a fantastic way to end the Blether.
Do you know what? It's been a long January.
It's been
a long journey, and is that where we close off the Blether of me running out the door? Well, in fact, taxi in Aberdeen take 20 minutes, so let's phone one, see how long it takes to get a pickup, like a driver up to Huntly, and then I'll pick you up on the way up, Mike. And so we've probably still got another 20 minutes with how bad Aberdeen taxis are.
Sounds good.
Do you know what? I am game. Get that taxi booked. And on that note, we should probably call it quits for this week.
We should. Before anything else comes out of Kat's mouth, I'm going to ask her, Kat, who's on next week?
So next week, I am prepared. I went and got my diary and everything. So next week, we have Justine Hazelhurst, who I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with. She was meant to be in the Blether last year, and like diaries we just couldn't connect diaries between us all. So we've got her. Like literally, like after Christmas, I was like, Justine, I don't want to annoy you, but I really want you on this year. So this is our final opportunity to get Justine. Well, not final, but like we finally managed to catch her and get her in the diary. So she is famous for her Instagram posts, her Facebook posts. She talks a lot about the history of blended whiskey. She's written a lot of amazing books. She does walking tours around Leith. She is a legend. She loves a graveyard. I love a graveyard. Different reasons, I'm sure, but she is going to be great chat. So that's who we have on next week. And on that note, I am done for the night.
Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure. I thought I could only make the second half, but I've loved it. It's been so much fun having you on. We'll have to hit the heights of Aberdeen and have a proper night out.
Do a golf karaoke whiskey night. That's what we're doing with Neil.
Honestly, Mike, if you hadn't been busy earlier on, you would know the concept for me and Kat's next night out. It's going to be real fun. It's going to be a little DIY in the way to get the things sorted, but you're in, and it's going to be 6-7 hours of right good fun when you see me next. When we play.
I am going to be knocking a birdie into your bogey. That's my golf chat. That's good, right? Birdie, bogey, right?
Again, everything.
Whatever, right?
So far, wow. And I look forward to all of them. I generally look forward to all of them massively.
Thank you very much for everyone that stayed to the
for the people who are still watching, and if you're watching retrospectively, if you've come back to us, thank you so much. Neil, it's been a pleasure. It always is.
And stay there, because we're going to say goodbye to the folks, but you stay there for a second. We'll say properly thank you to you. So don't disappear.
I'm looking forward to it. As soon as that live goes off, I move over to my sofa, and then it'll be a lot better chat.
Fine, but keep your trousers on. Right. Thank you very much, everyone. Night.
Good night, guys. Good night. See you next week.
Slange.